on, Cougar fans? Peter Borkowski here, and I'm joined by Parker Kelly, and it's game day here in River Forest as your Concordia University Chicago Cougars football team gets set to kick off the 2023 season by welcoming the Greenville Panthers to Concordia Stadium. And Parker, before we get to the matchup today, let's look a little bit at last year, the 2021 season. The Cougars went 3-7, 2-6 in conference play, and even though that record might not have been what second-year head coach Andy Lambert exactly wanted, it was a step in the right direction from his first year as head coach. They won one more conference game. We saw a very dominant defense out of this Cougars team, and Parker, just like I said, it felt like a step in the right direction for Andy Lambert.
It was absolutely a step in the right direction. One more conference win than they got a year prior. The biggest win of the season was definitely the Benedictine win at home. Huge win, and it allowed some of the returners that we'll see today to gain some more experience, and they're going to be the backbone of this Cougar team today.
Well, let's talk about those returners a little bit. First on the offense, it's the quarterback, Troy Prattley. The junior was the main starter for last year, back under center again today for opening day. And Parker, Troy's one of those quarterbacks. He's a dual threat guy. He can throw it, he can run it, very shifty on the run. He seems like a really good guy to have in Andy Lambert's offensive system.
Troy Prattley is the epitome of what Coach Lambert wants from the quarterback position. A dual threat guy. He's a junior this year. This is his third year as a starter. He has plenty of experience, and the Cougars are going to rely heavily on him today, especially in the run game.
And defensively, it's another junior, Trayvon Thomas, second team All-NAC last season, the linebacker, one of those linebackers who he commands your respect. He's everywhere on the field. Tackles for losses, interceptions, blocked, whatever it may be. Trayvon Thomas is one of those guys. He gets it done no matter what it takes.
He is a phenomenal linebacker for this Cougar team. The third-year player out of Wauchula, Florida, second-team all-conference last season. He was second in the team in tackles, also added 3 interceptions. He gets it done whether he's rushing the passer or dropping back in coverage. He's a true two-way linebacker.
And now let's talk about the other team on the field today, the Greenville Panthers, making the 4-hour trek north from Greenville, Illinois. And Parker, this is a team, they've had a lot of success recently. 7-3 last season, 5-1 in conference play, finished second in the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference, and under Robbie Shoemaker, he's been there since 2013 as head coach. This team has had a ton of success.
Robbie Shoemaker is definitely the most important. He has been the most successful coach in Greenville history, and the offense is led by Paul Garrett, who we've talked about a lot. First in the conference with 1,390 yards, which was first in the conference. Like I said, those 22 touchdowns also first. He is a great running back, and he is the backbone of this offense.
And Paul Garrett was also the UMAC Offensive Player of the Year last season. Again, that's in the entire conference. This guy is such a dangerous threat offensively, but his brother is just as dangerous defensively. Dwayne Garrett, again, Paul's brother is a linebacker, first-team all-defense in the UMAC last year, and just like Paul commands your respect offensively, Dwayne is going to make you hurt defensively.
Dwayne and Paul are definitely a package deal, and he's a linebacker that the Cougars are most definitely going to have to account for today. If they're not going to be able to block him today, it may be a struggle in the run game because he is that dangerous of a player.
All right, well, let's have a little history lesson here. All-time against Greenville, the Concordia University Chicago Cougars are 2-16. However, they haven't played since 2007. That was here in River Forest. Greenville won that game 35-22. The last time the Cougars took a game against the Panthers, you have to go back to 1997, again, here in River Forest. So, Parker, it's been a hot minute since the Cougars have been able to take down their big cat relative in the Panthers. But we know the history. We know the players to look out for. Parker, what's it going to take for the Cougars to get it done here opening day, start off 2023 with a win?
The key is pretty simple. You have to be able to stop Paul Garrett. We know how dangerous he is offensively, and this is a Cougars defense that only returns 4 starters from last season. That front 7 is going to have to be great today, and I mean great. To stop a running back like Paul Garrett, have to be able to stop him, or else it may be a struggle today.
Well, I'm going to take things a little offensively for the Cougars. It's going to be the rush game. It was their bread and butter last season, and the Greenville Panthers, they had the #1 pass defense in the UMAC last year. The rush defense was #4, however, so between Troy Prattley, between starting running back Blake Henson, whoever they hand the ball off to, that rush game is going to be important to beat the Panthers today. but that matchup is going to start in just a little bit. We got a 1 p.m. kickoff between your Concordia University Chicago Cougars and the visiting Panthers of Greenville University. Parker and I will be on the call with you on the Cougar Sports Network if you can't make it out to River Forest today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Cougars take on the Panthers here on the Cougar Sports Network.
Student and choose to stand tall for healing at a university that places Christ at the center and embraces teaching students to live a life fulfilled by purpose and meaning. Concordia University Chicago's new Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree is an innovative and rigorous 4-year program that will prepare you to rise to the daily challenges of a rewarding nursing career and serve a greater cause. Our newly built modern simulation center features 4 distinct spaces, a skills attainment lab, multi-specialty intensive care spaces, a health assessment learning center, and a simulated home environment. Due to our close proximity to many world-class teaching hospitals, CUC's clinical rotations offer an abundance of diverse and real-world experiences. Learn more about earning your BSN at a Christ-centered university today.
It's game day here in River Forest as we get set for the 2023 football season opener. Your Concordia University Chicago Cougars playing host to the Panthers of Greenville University. Peter Borkowski here on play-by-play, joined by my partner and CUC Football alum at that, Parker Kelly. Parker, I know you've been excited all day. You're telling us a little bit before the game, it felt like Christmas this morning when you woke up, and I don't think I can disagree with that point. The season opener for football, always an exciting time. Brand new season means brand new opportunities, and Parker, it's just so exciting to be back here in the booth, be here with you, and get ready for some CUC football.
Absolutely. To me, football is the best time of the year, and the Cougars have an excellent opportunity as they're hosting the Panthers from Greenville University. Greenville projected to finish first in the conference, the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference. The Cougars coming off a bit of a rough season, so they're looking to rebound and get the win in the home opener today. It's going to be an excellent opportunity for the team.
Well, that's right. Greenville, a very successful program. They were second in the UMAC last year. That's the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference. And like Parker said, they're projected to win it all this year. Robbie Shoemaker, he's been at the helm since 2013. He's won 3 Coaches of the Year awards in the UMAC. So a very successful team coming up here to Chicago from Greenville, Illinois. That's down in southern Illinois for those of you who are unaware. But Parker, let's talk about this Cougars team a little bit before we send it down to the field for the pregame prayer. I mean, what are you expecting out of this team this year? We got some new faces. We got some returning faces. Troy Prattley under center at quarterback. He's been here the last 2 years. Has seen a lot of playing time. Got a few defensive returners, but again, a lot of new faces. So it's going to be interesting to see what this team looks like this season.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to talk about expectations in the first game of the season. I was talking to Coach Lambert yesterday. The Cougars are very excited to play this game today, and they have a great opportunity to take on a very talented team. But what it's going to come down to is who is most prepared. We've talked about Paul Garrett in the pregame. He's a great running back, one of the better running backs in the history of the school. The Cougars are going to have to be lights out on defense in order to stop him. I also expect to see a heavy dose of the run game from the Cougars.
Well, you see the team running out to the field now wearing their home golds with the maroon pants and white lettering. Greenville still in the locker room, but again, we're about 20 seconds out from opening prayer. We'll get that for you, and then we'll get the national anthem. Then we'll get set for kickoff here in River Forest. Again, the Cougars taking on the Panthers. It's a battle of the big cats. We're going to see who comes out on top here. Opening day 2023 football season. Parker and I be with you on the call in just a minute, but we're going to send it down for some more pregame festivities, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Hello, I'm Dr. Russell Dawn, President of Concordia University Chicago. Thank you for tuning in to today's Cougar Athletics broadcast. We take great pride in the strength of both our athletic and academic programs, which are rooted in our steadfast commitment to Jesus Christ. Dedicated to the liberal arts as a foundation of a high-quality college degree, we believe education should form individuals for service to their neighbors. This makes Concordia Chicago an exciting and fulfilling place to study, work, learn, and grow. Learn more today by visiting cuchicago.edu. Thank you, and go Cougars!
The national anthem has been played as we get set for kickoff here. The officials heading out to the center of the field as we'll find out who will get the opening kickoff. But Parker, you talked about the need to stop Paul Garrett for this Cougars defense, and maybe you talked a little bit about what does this offense need to do to have success, especially after we saw last year as a very rush-heavy offense. Chase Hankins, he was the OC last year. His first season, he's back for year 2. So what does this offense maybe need to tweak a little bit from last year to have a bit more success?
Well, I don't think too much is going to change schematically as far as the run game is concerned. But we talked about on the defensive side for Greenville, Dwayne Garrett, he's an inside linebacker, and this Cougars team really likes to run up the middle, but they need to focus on running the ball outside of the hash because, like I said, Dwayne Garrett in the middle of the field, run away from him because he is a great defensive player, and if he gets in the mix, it may be a struggle.
Dwayne Garrett and Paul Garrett, the two brothers on this Greenville team. They hail from Goodwater, Alabama, Clay Central High School, and they've just been absolutely tearing it up in Greenville, Illinois during their tenure as Panthers. As the two teams' set of captains meet at center field, and Troy, we talked about him a little bit, but you see number 5 down there, Troy Prattley, back under center for the Cougars this year. He was your teammate the last couple of years. So, I mean, can you give us a little bit of insight about his game? We already talked about his dual rush ability, but what else can we expect from Troy Prattley?
Well, Troy's been here for 3 years. Junior, he's very experienced. He started all 3 years, and he's someone that all the other Cougar players really look up to. He's a vocal guy, and that's really what the Cougars need. He's really calm and poised under pressure, and that'll be huge because this is a very good opponent that the Cougars are playing today.
Mm-hmm. And as we get set for the kickoff, let's talk about the special teams a little bit because that was one of the highlights from last year. Special team coordinator for the Cougars, Sevi Lubril, has really turned this unit into an absolute, not to sound redundant, but an absolute unit. This team gets blocks, they get turnovers, they're great on punt returns from the other team, I should say, when the Cougars are punting. So this is a team who they make a big difference special teams-wise.
And I'm kind of laughing a little bit because if you know Coach Sevi, he's a very high-energy guy. He gets all the guys going, all the guys standing up on the bench, and that's exactly how the special teams play. They fly around, fly to the football, and he's always preaching you have to have special teams play well in order to win games like this, and hopefully we'll see that on display today.
Well, the Cougars are going to kick off to start the game. The kicker for the Cougars is who it's been the last couple seasons, Ryan Auer, a junior out of Newark, Ohio, Newark Catholic High School alum. As he gets set for the kickoff, he's been the Cougars' main kicker since he came here as a freshman. And as he gets set, and we are underway here in River Forest as the kick is up. And the returner for the Panthers takes it. He's going to head to the far sideline. He eludes some tackles, and now he's moving down the sideline, breaks another tackle. He might take this one all the way. Ryan Auer cannot beat the blocker, and that's a kickoff return touchdown for the Greenville Panthers. Quintrell Clay, the freshman, making an impact, his first play of his collegiate career, and the Panthers strike first.
If you're the Cougars, that's definitely not how you want to start, but if you noticed on the kickoff, all the players from CUC rushed into the middle of the field. That allowed the far sideline to be open for the Greenville returner. And once he hit the sideline, he just turned on the burners, and the rest is history.
Quintrell Clay, again, a freshman out of Haiti, Missouri, took it all the way. Once he broke that initial group of tacklers, he was gone. And now it's Lucas Hermo. The senior gets set for the extra point. It is up, and it is through the uprights. It's good. And so just like that, Greenville takes a 7-0 lead over the Cougars. What a way to start for a Greenville team projected to win the UMAC this year. And again, Parker, it's a non-conference game, so this really won't, quote-unquote matter at the end of the year standings when it comes playoff time. But this is a great time to get momentum for your team. And now, in terms of the game, the Cougars got to find a way to get that momentum right back to their side.
And something that I'm going to look for right here is, yes, this team has some returners, but all in all, it's a fairly young team. And just because you get hit in the mouth early, it's 7-0. The game is not out of reach. I'd like to see how the Cougars respond right here because it's not about how you start but how you finish. And we'll see how the Cougars do right here.
So Cougars set up to return the kickoff. They have 3 bodies near the end zone. The kick returner is listed as Henry Jones. That's number 19, way in the back, a sophomore out of Atlanta, Georgia. Blake Henson, the starting running back for the Cougars, is back there as well. Number 19. Henry Jones, again, the primary kick returner for the Cougars this year, at least roster-wise, as he gets set. And we were talking to Troy Prattley the other day, Parker, and he was singing the praises of Henry Jones. So this guy's extremely fast, extremely elusive, as Hermo gets set for the kickoff for Greenville. So we're going to have to see if Jones can live up to the expectations. His quarterback set for him. The kick is off. Jones, and it will not be Jones. Instead, it will be number 18 for the Cougars, and he gets tackled just inside the 25-yard line. Getting the kickoff was Demary Grant, sophomore out of Chicago, Illinois, and he's brought down before even reaching the 25. They're going to mark him at the 24-yard line for the Cougars.
And I'll say that is definitely something the Panthers drew up. Kick it away from Henry Jones. And just a little inside information on Jones. He was a walk-on at Oregon prior to coming to CUC. In order to play at Oregon, you have to be fast. So very smart decision right there from the Panthers to kick it away from Jones.
So the Cougars will get their first look at offense. Troy Prattley under center. He sends Blake Henson in motion, and he finds a quick receiver in Devin Bledsoe, number 3. He gets tackled right around the line of scrimmage, so little to no gain there for the Cougars. And Parker, that seems to be a staple of this Cougars offense, is that quick snap and throw to the wing. Let your playmakers do something.
Well, what it boils down to is Devin Bledsoe, another experienced receiver on this team, and they want to get the ball in his hands. However, the blocking on the perimeter was not good right there. In order to have Bledsoe make a big play, you have to have the blocking on the perimeter.
The Cougars' right tackle, Ezekiel Pearson, is a freshman, one of 2 new faces on this Cougars offensive line as Henson gets sent in motion again. Prattley, he's going to keep this one, and he's going to take it for a decent gain. Gets brought right around the 29-yard line, and that'll set up 3rd down for the Cougars. Should be around 3rd and 5 for the CUC offense.
And right there, we talked about this. They ran a quarterback draw right at Dwayne Garrett. This Cougars offense showing they're not scared of one of the better defensive players in the UMAC. I like that approach right there from Coach Andy Lambert.
Cougars 27.8% completion on 3rd down last year as Prattley throws, and it's popped up out of the chest of Jace Levy. And that'll bring up 4th down. The Cougars going to send the punt unit out. So a 3-and-out for CUC on their first drive. And Parker, Greenville can't have a better start to this game. Return the opening kickoff, and then you get a 3-and-out against a Cougars offense. Doesn't get much better than that if you're the Panthers.
Well, they're coming out very aggressive. They popped Jace Levi right there. And Levi, he's a first-year player for this Cougars. However, he does have a little bit of college football experience. If you're Levi, that's one you wish you had back. Got to be able to hold on to that one.
Levi transfer from Iowa Central Community College as the punt from Ryan Auer makes it all the way back to Jabri Berry as he eludes a tackler. Now he's off and running, misses another tackler. He's still on his feet, and he's finally brought down. I believe that was Brandon Montford on the main tackle, number 2 of 3 Cougars. Eventually converged on Jabri Berry, the sophomore punt returner for Greenville. And Parker, despite the fact they've already got 7 points, this will be the first time we see Greenville's offense today. And I know we already mentioned Paul Garrett. That's who our eyes are going to be on. But this is an offense who's got a ton of talent. Even their left guard, Derek Martinez Delgado, offensive lineman of the year last year in the UMAC. So even to the offensive line, this is a unit stacked with good players.
Well, their offense is very experienced, and a good offensive line is a running back's best friend.
Garrett, and he gets brought down in the backfield. That's going to be a tackle by number 90, Justin Pierce, the junior out of Irving, Texas. Only 9 nine games played, in his collegiate career, 5 total tackles, but he gets the first one of the day for the Cougars defense, and it's a big one as it was a tackle for loss.
This is one of the guys that this Cougars defense will rely on, especially on that defensive line. Justin Pierce, experienced guy. He's not the tallest guy, but he's really built, and he is a game wrecker on that defensive line.
And that's a QB keep, and dropping the pass was DJ Brown. He looked to have an open field ahead of him. He just couldn't handle the low pass from starting quarterback Peyton Bates for Greenville. So Cougars might catch a little bit of a break there.
And something the Panthers are going to rely on. Paul Garrett is so good in the run game that when they use that play action, that allows the flats to be open. And you're right, TJ Brown just looking a little bit upfield before he looks the ball in.
And Parker, you're talking about the defensive front for the Cougars. They run a 3-4, and this is an entirely new 3 up front for the Cougars. Last year's group is gone. Justin Pierce, Adam Lambaz, and Jamari Jackson are in for the Cougars. So this is going to be an interesting area to watch for CUC. As again, that was one of their highlights last year, was that defensive front. Now they got 3 new faces there as Bates steps back into the pocket, launches one downfield. It's one-on-one, and it's intercepted! Cougars get the ball right back to Mary Grant. And that's a CUC interception.
And that right there is how you respond if you're the Cougars. Peyton Bates, 13 interceptions last season. Anytime you throw double-digit interceptions for a quarterback, that's not good news. And nice job right there by Demary Grant, high-pointing the ball, great coverage, and coming up with the turnover for the Cougars.
Grant was in a one-on-one with his man, got in front of him, should say got between him and the ball, and that's what led that interception. Cougars now set up at about the 22-yard line, and Troy Prattley's going to keep this one as he runs into a tackler, brought down. Little to no gain there for CUC as they try to rush it up the middle again. And Parker, you said it yourself, rushing it up the middle against this Greenville team, that's probably not going to be the answer. Between Dwayne Garrett and the rest of this defense, who, again, is a very, very solid defense. Number 1 pass defense last year in the UMAC and number 4 rush defense in the UMAC.
And what we saw right there was simply a toss read. Troy Prattley reading the defensive end, made the right read, just didn't get the kick out by the guard.
And now he's going to hand off to Blake Henson. Blake Henson has some room as he gets a nice, decent chunk of yardage out of it. That'll bring the Cougars a few yards within the first down marker. Looks like got about 4 yards to go.
That's what I'm talking about right there. The Cougars really have to utilize all the space they have. And Blake Henson, or as his teammates like to call him, Booba, he is a fast guy. He came on the scene late last year for the Cougars, and they'll rely on him heavily today in that rushing attack.
So 3rd down for the Cougars, and now there are going to be flags flying as someone jumped early. So we're going to wait for the referees to say who exactly jumped the gun first. And all sorts of linemen were clamoring over each other.
So right there, that was Coach Lambert. Did not call a play. Really, they see it's 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable, trying to get the Panthers to jump off sides. Troy Prattley with the fake clap, able to get the defense to jump off sides. Now it's a fresh set of downs for the CUC team.
So Cougars get their first down. It's through a penalty on Greenville. Last season, the Cougars, kind of an interesting note, 22 first downs thanks to an opponent's penalty. That was actually the best mark in the conference. So this team is, whether intentionally or not, sometimes it's hard to say if it's, you made it happen or not. They are the best team in the NAC in terms of getting those first downs through penalties, as they have a fresh set right now, and I think we're going to get a timeout here by the Cougars. We will, as Andy Lambert wants to have a chat with his offense. So we're going to take a break here in the booth. The Cougars talking things over as they have the ball on their own 34-yard line, trailing the Panthers 7-0.
Chicago, head to cuchicago.edu for information on our university. We appreciate you tuning in to today's game.
So Cougars first and 10 on their 34-yard line. And Parker, something you mentioned to me during that little break was the veteran move by C.J. Morris to be able to draw that penalty from Greenville. Kind of talk to us more about that.
So what C.J. did, he's the left tackle, C.J. Morris, saw that defensive line jump, and then as soon as he saw them jump, he moved. That was a very high IQ play by the left tackle, and that's able to draw. It's able to draw the penalty. Very nice play right there from C.J. Morris, something that really goes unnoticed.
C.J. Morris, a junior out of Douglasville, Georgia, played in 10 games last year. That was every single game for CUC. One of the veteran members of this offensive line, him, Jalen Franklin, and Christian Duran, all coming back as juniors. Meanwhile, Tanner Mosley and Ezekiel Pearson, the two freshmen in this offensive line. Mosley in the middle at center, and then Pearson at the end at right tackle. So the Cougars get set for first and 10 as they're looking to make some noise, trailing Greenville 7-0, 10-11 left to go here in the first quarter. As the officials are still figuring out the particulars. Troy Prattley talking to the referee. As now we get set for the snap. And Tanner Mosley to Troy Prattley. That's the main connection, center to a quarterback. As the whistle blows, we are ready to go here. Hand off to Blake Henson. He's trying to find a way around the line, and he's going to get pushed out of bounds just about. That was just at the line of scrimmage, so should be no gain for CUC. As they now have 2nd and 11. It was actually a loss of 1. He fell right in front of the wall of Cougar players on the sideline, so kind of hard to tell where exactly he touched the ground.
It was a really nice job of Jalen Dowell, number 17, the corner for the Panthers, shed a block from one of the Cougar receivers and was eyes to the football right there and able to tackle Blake Henson for a loss.
Troy Prattley steps back. He's going to find a man caught in the midfield by Henry Jones. That'll bring up 3rd and 2 for the Cougars now. Nice quick pass right into the middle of play. Henry Jones coming around as a screen. And the Cougars now just a few yards away from getting themselves another set of downs.
I feel like that's a connection we'll see a lot today between Prattley and Jones. A great job of Jones really sitting in the middle of that zone and Prattley firing it over to the middle to Jones.
Henson takes the handoff, and he's going to try and just push his way through. He doesn't. He's stopped before the first down marker. It's going to be a 4th and 1st, and Parker, here we go. Probably our first interesting play call here. 4th and 1. The offense is going to stay on the field now the punt unit comes out as some of the players maybe a little slow to get off the field. I think the offense thought they were going for it. Instead, the punt unit comes out. I mean, what do you think of this call, Parker? 4th and 1 on your own 44. Is this the right decision here for Andy Lambert and his squad?
I'd say so, especially since you're in your own territory. That's something the Cougars like to do. They like to run the ball on 3rd down. Just didn't get enough movement up front.
As this one is going to head over the head of the punt return into the end zone for a touchback. And so Greenville will get another shot on offense. Their last offensive drive ended with an interception. Peyton Bates delivering it into the hands of Cougars cornerback Damari Grant, senior out of Bolingbrook, Illinois. As Greenville looking for a little more success on this drive. But let's talk about that offensive drive for the Cougars, excuse me. They got a first down. It was through penalty, however, but we did see some decent ball movement, and it was a step in the right direction from their first offensive drive, which was a 3-and-out.
It was definitely a step in the right direction, but I'm interested in see how the Cougars continue to build off of that drive. Coach Lambert is a guy who really likes those slow, methodical drives, kind of dwindle the clock a little bit and move the chains.
So it's going to be a handoff to the running back, Adrian Hinton, senior from Peoria, as he gets a couple of yards out of it. It'll be 2nd down and 6 for the Panthers. Hinton appeared in all 10 games last year for Greenville, 113 rushes for 570 yards. As they go with him instead of Paul Garrett. So 2nd and 6-4, the Panthers. And it'll be kept by Bates. He's going to try and rush up the middle, and he's brought down by the Cougars. So we'll get a 3rd down and 2. As Cougars looking to get a 2nd straight offensive stop here.
And that's something that Coach Robbie Shoemaker likes to do as well. This is a heavy run team, just like the Cougars. They really like to get their quarterback, Peyton Bates, involved in the run game as well. Kind of a bigger guy, 6'1", 195. Definitely special in the run game as well.
So Thomas Dowell gets helped off the field, limping a little bit. The left tackle for the Panthers, the junior, he's going to need some time on the sideline, see what he's dealing with, see if he can come back in the game as a starter. Paul Garrett in the backfield, something to watch as Peyton Bates and his offense have to muster up just a few yards for a 1st down. They hand it to Garrett, and he's going to try and get around the edge, and he's getting chased, and he's brought down out of bounds. Cougars defense doing a great job sniffing that play out. They were on Garrett the second he tried to turn the corner, and that's going to bring up 4th down for the Panthers as they're bringing out the punt unit.
And the Panthers knew that coming into the game, that the perimeter defenders for the Cougars defense, they're inexperienced. A lot of them are freshmen, and they were trying to run it at them right there. That was a great job of a group of freshmen really stepping up and not allowing them to get the 1st down. Cougars defense has been lights out.
Luke Miller, the punter for Greenville, set to receive the snap. Last season, averaged 35 yards per punt. As the flag flies right after the snap is snapped. As the player is without his helmet on the Greenville side of things. We're going to see what the call is here. Officials talking things over. Looks like Panthers are going to have to move back, so it should be a flag on the Panthers.
Looks like someone might have jumped on that front line.
So that backs up the punt. It's still going to be a punt, but now Luke Miller, he's got a little bit more ground to make up. As here's the 2nd snap of the punt. This one up, and it's going to be waved by Damari Grant. It's going to bounce around, and it's brought down on Greenville's own 49-yard line, right in between the line markers. And Parker, this is excellent field position for the Cougars, easily their best of the day. And this is where we saw the offense really start to thrive last year, was the defense get a stop early in the drive, deep in the opponent's zone, and that made life a lot easier. The offense did not have to go as far to at least get in within field goal range.
No, the defense definitely complements the offense in this case, and when you're starting in Greenville territory, you have to be able to capitalize. That was a good drive, last possession for the Cougars offense. Let's see how they continue to build off of that right now.
28-yard punt by Luke Miller as the handoff is bobbled. It's on the ground. Greenville signaling they have it, they do. A botched handoff. And Greenville gets the ball right back.
Right there, another play the Cougars like to run. They like to run those jet sweep power reads, and oftentimes the timing can be a little bit awkward, a little bit difficult, and we saw that right there. Snap was just a tad late. Troy Prattley not able to stick it in the belly of Henry Jones, and Greenville gets the ball right back.
Yeah, we see these problems with the Cougars every once in a while. Something just almost like a brain fart. You know, they run out of time before the play that forces Andy Lambert to call a timeout, a botched handoff, something like that. There were a couple bodies in the vicinity of that handoff. I think that's what caused the confusion and maybe the misinput from Troy Prattley. Either way, Greenville, they now have the excellent starting position as Paul Garrett, he's going to take off he's at least going to get a big gain out of it as he's brought down at the Cougars' 20-yard line, dragged out of bounds. And Paul Garrett, he's largely been stifled up to this point by the Cougars' defense, but you figured it was just a matter of time until he broke out a big rush. He gets one there.
And I'm going to point back to the Cougar fumble. That play may be costly later in the game. We may see if the Panthers score right there, Cougars are just going to be hitting their heads. Look for that play to be costly potentially later on.
Fumble attributed to Blake Henson for the Cougars. Greg Lanier was the Panther who picked it up and gives his team excellent starting position as the ball is handed off to Hinton. He's going to be able to scrap some yards out of it as he rushes up the middle. As now it's just a matter of some steady offense for the Panthers. They're within the red zone at the Cougars' own 16-yard line. In terms of field goal position, Lucas Hermo went 5 for 6 last season. His longest was 37 yards, so it's definitely not a guarantee yet. If the Cougars can get a stop here, maybe even pick up a couple tackles for loss, field goal isn't a sure bet as they hand it off now to number 2, who breaks through some tacklers for a few yards at Matthew Tiger, senior running back out of Selma, California.
Once again, we see the Panthers really targeting that perimeter, getting Matt Tiger outside the tackle box, seeing what he can do. This Panthers offense is rolling right now.
They get the calls from the sideline. You see Robbie Shoemaker, head coach of the Panthers, standing about the Cougars' 25-yard line, giving in the calls. Paul Garrett sets up behind Peyton Bates. We haven't seen Garrett get a ton of handoffs as he's not going to get one here. Bates rolls out. Now he's in trouble. He's just going to take it himself, and he gets knocked down. He'll pick up to about 2 yards. But Bates was rolling out looking for that open receiver, and the Cougars did a good job of forcing him to make a play, and instead of a big completion, he gets 2 yards out of it.
And we know this is a heavy run team from the Panthers. Don't be surprised if we see play action quite a bit today. Play action is a phenomenal compliment when you have a great running back such as Paul Garrett.
Well, Garrett behind Bates once again, as Bates has 3 receivers to his right, 1 to his left, as his team is within 10 yards of scoring a touchdown here. They hand it off to Garrett, jumps around some defenders. He gets brought down within 2 yards of the Cougars' end zone. Cougars' own end zone. As this will be third and goal, excuse me. Cougars, Parker, it feels like they need something for a loss here, because even if they get a stop at the line of scrimmage, this is kind of that area where, like, they might go for it 4th down, rather resulting to a field goal. So a sack, a tackle for loss in the backfield, something like that. It's almost a necessity here if you want to keep this team out of the end zone.
I would not be surprised. The Panthers didn't get it right here. I'd say they definitely go for it on 4th down. That Cougars defense also looks a little gassed, which is not a good sign early.
And it'll be a handoff to Garrett again, and he's going to get stuffed at the line. And that'll bring up the 4th down we were just talking about, as it'll be the offense staying on the field. They're going to go for it here on 4th down. Parker, this could be a huge turning point here for the Cougars defense, the game as a whole. 4th down, about 3 yards to go until the end zone. Paul Garrett set up in the backfield.
A stop would be phenomenal for the Cougars right here.
Big turning point, and it's going to be a toss. It's popped up, and it's dropped by the Cougars defender, but it doesn't matter as it's a turnover on downs. Cougars almost got the interception. That would have been huge then, because he could just dropped for the touchback, but I think they'll take the 4th down turnover anyways. So they stuffed the Panthers in the red zone just a few yards from the end zone, and the Cougars will get another chance at offense here.
And that right there was the defensive line really putting their feet in the ground and not letting anything get past them vertically because that's the direction the Panthers wanted to run the ball, north and south. And now the focus of the offense is just going to be getting the ball out. You don't want to be in this position for the offense.
1:38 left on the clock here in the first quarter. The Cougars way back in their own end. Troy Prattley set well into the end zone as he's going to unleash one downfield, and he's got a man that's caught. He's going all the way as he's got two tacklers behind him. That is number 6. He's brought down just before the 10-yard line. Chase Levy making his impact known, his first game as a Cougar, and they are well in the red zone now. What a play by Chase Levy.
And that right there, Jace Levi, a bigger physical receiver that got him one-on-one with a corner who is at a disadvantage because he is smaller than him. And right there, that was just a simple fade. Troy Prattley really dropping it in the bucket. And that right there is the experience really paying off.
Cougars in the red zone now. And it's handed off to Joron Brown. He goes up the middle. Gets maybe 2 yards out of it. As we hear ref whistles blown all over the place, and Dwayne Garrett, this might be big, Parker. Dwayne Garrett walking off the field, his helmet popped off. In college, the rule is if your helmet comes off, you have to leave the field for a play, concussion protocol, wanting to make sure our players are safe. So you have the best linebacker on this Greenville team on the sideline for a play. Might be time to do something here.
Really just got to take advantage of it. When the best player on the defensive front goes out, got to capitalize. Simple as that.
As we have a brief break here, the referees talking things over. There is a flag on the field. And it's going to be a 15-yard penalty on C.J. Morris. And this is a big roadblock for the Cougars. They're getting set way back now out of the red zone. As they're set up, the ball is set on Greenville's 26-yard line.
And if you're offensive line coach Jackson Joyce, you are not happy about that one because you had the ball in the red zone and now it backs you up a little bit because of the holding call.
Unnecessary roughness on C.J. Morris is the call as Troy Prattley rolls out. He's going to fire one and gets a man for a short gain. Just tiptoeing before the out-of-bounds line. Henry Jones getting another completion under his name on the stat sheet. As Cougars bringing in a tight end, Quentin Grimes checks in the game for Vincent Scarnado, checks out. So you got Devin Bledsoe lined up on the wide receiver on the right. On the left, you have Chase Levy. And you got a slot receiver in motion now as the snap is off Prattley. It's going to be a handoff, and it's bobbled again. It's on the ground. It's jumped on by a yellow jersey. The Cougars almost had their second fumble of the day. They did have their second fumble of the day, or their second lost fumble of the day, I should specify. Luckily, one of the offensive linemen able to hop on it, prevent anything from happening disaster-wise. And as it brings up 4th down now, and the offense looking at the sideline as the buzzer rings to signify the end of the first quarter. So we're going to have to wait until the second to find out if this offense goes for the field goal or if they decide to go for it. It is 4th and long, Parker, so that would be a gutsy call from Andy Lambert. But we're going to have to wait a minute to see what that call is. So at the end of one, Greenville on top of the Cougars 7-0 here in River Forest. Opening day of the 2023 season for football. So we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be back in a minute for more football action on the Cougar Sports Network.
Hey Cougar fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information on the football program, visit cucougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game. Go Cougars!
Second quarter here as the Cougars are going to lead things off with a field goal attempt. Ryan Auer as the kick is up, and it's going to be short and wide left. Might have had the distance, but it was way too wide left, so no good field goal from Auer. He went 2 for 7 last year. He starts 0 for 1 this season. But, Parker, you were talking to me about that play that put the Cougars back in field goal range to end the first quarter. I mean, just talk us through what maybe Coach Lambert was thinking on that, what maybe they should have done instead. Again, it resulted in a fumble, but what was the goal of that play there?
So right there on that 3rd and long, it was a very conservative play call from Coach Andy Lambert, really just trying to get the running back draw up the middle. They were already in field goal range. They were just trying to gain a few extra yards just to make it easier on the kicker, Auer. And the fumble proved to be really costly. It took him out of field goal range, plus the direction of the wind just really pushed that kick back and resulted in the miss.
So Greenville back on the offensive side of the ball. Bates under center. He's got 2 receivers to his left, 1 to his right as he's going to look downfield now. Finds a short completion to number 2, his receiver, Matt Tiger. Reels it in right before stepping out of bounds. Tiger, 10 receptions last season for 139 yards. At 118 yards rushing. We've already seen him take a handoff this game, so one of those multi-function guys for the Panthers. As it's now 2nd and 3 for Greenville.
Just a simple go-out concept. The corner bailed, allowed that out to come right through the back window, allowed Greenville to pick up 7 yards right there.
Man in motion, and he's going to get the handoff. That's Delray Crowder, and now he's heading downfield, finally brought down within the Cougars' 45-yard line. The wide receiver Crowder in motion before the snap, gets the handoff on the sweep and just kept on running around the edge. And he puts his team well into the Cougars' side of the field now.
I think Delray Crowder is a player that the Cougars may have underestimated. He was top 10 statistically in lots of receiving categories last year for the UMAC. He's probably the best receiver on this Greenville team, and he can make an impact in today's game just as much as Garrett.
As Bates looks to another receiver, this time it's Jabri Berry. He's brought down right in front of the line marker. It's going to be a gain of 1. Check that, 2. The line marker just moved another yard. So 2-yard gain there for Berry, the punt returner for this Greenville team. Parker, we're seeing Greenville go to the receiving game more on this drive. We haven't seen a handoff. We saw the handoff to Crowder, but he's a receiver. He was in a sweep motion, and they really haven't been using Garrett or Hinton yet this drive.
Which kind of surprises me because this is a very run-heavy team, and the fact they're going through the air is just an interesting approach.
And there's a tackle for loss. Matt Tiger gets the handoff from Bates, and he's brought down a yard behind the line of scrimmage. So that'll make it 3rd and 11 now, as the team gets the call from the sideline.
This defensive line really taking over for the Cougars kind of clears it up a little bit why the Panthers are throwing the ball a little bit more down the field. Defensive line, despite being young, they're playing great right now.
Yeah, and a new defensive coordinator for the Cougars as well. Bo Flowers joining the staff this year, replacing Lamont Butler from last year, who was excellent during his tenure at CUC. Took a Division I job on defensive line coach, I believe. And so Bo Flowers now in charge as we get a call on the field. And it's going to be a penalty on Greenville. So they're going to have to reset another 5 yards as it's 3rd and long now. So they're going to have to go to the passing game on this down. They got a long way to go. 3rd and 16. As Bates, he's got to find a man downfield. He unleashes one. It is out of bounds. So the Cougars defense, with some help from Greenville penalties, causes the 4th down. They're going to get the ball right back again. Parker, this defense is looking excellent so far. They haven't allowed any points. The only 7 points on the board came from the opening kickoff return. And again, despite some new faces up front, despite a new defensive coordinator, this defense has not skipped a beat from last year.
And really, the defense has bailed out the Concordia offense a lot. And right there, that was just a miscommunication between Bates and his receiver. The receiver went deep. Bates was expecting him to break it off into a comeback. Just a miscommunication, and resulted in the 4th down.
And now we're going to get a timeout on the field as the teams are going to talk over their strategy here. Defensively last year, let's look at the Cougars a little bit, because that was definitely the highlight of last season, if I had to say, Parker. Points per game, they allowed 32.5, which was 6th in the NAC, but they only allowed 378.7 yards per game. That was 4th, so that's in the upper half of the conference. And the other thing you have to look at is this defense is on the field a lot. This is an offense who struggled last year a little bit, so this defense had to pick up a bulk of that load, and they did excellent in that role last season.
This is a Concordia team that really wants to play smash mouth football, and what that means is it starts with a great defense up front. Primarily, the focus will be on the front 7. Also, the bread and butter on offense is running the football. And right now, the defense, is, like I mentioned earlier, really bailing out the offense right here.
So now we get set for the Greenville punt. Luke Miller. He's already had a few punts at this game. His last one went for 28 yards, as this one is up. Should have a bit more distance on it, as grabbing it and calling it is the punt returner for the Cougars. And so the Cougars will be right around their 10-yard line to start this offensive drive. Parker, we've seen quite a number of Cougar offensive drives already. What needs to be different about this one to finally pick up some yardage? This offense, just really can't seem to get anything going consistently. What's going to be the key to changing at this drive?
Well, I'd really like to see the Cougars try to air it out a little bit. They got the fade to Jace Levi and really haven't gone back to the deep attack since that point. I really think it would be good if the Cougars maybe consider doing that.
Pratley's got a running back to his right, and it's a sweep motion. Pratley's going to keep it and go the other way, though, and he gets tackled one-on-one. He's still up, as now a body of white and gold jerseys converge, and Pratley finally touches the ground. Decent chunk of yardage there for Pratley. So it'll be 2nd and 3 now.
And right there, very similar to the power read. That was just a simple quarterback counter, which means faking the jet sweep. Sometimes Pratley will have a read, and he's just running a counter to the opposite side. Nice job by Pratley, really picking up some yards, making it 2nd and short.
Gets the defense thinking you're going one way, you end up going the other way, catch him off guard, and picked up over half the yardage needed for a 1st down, as now a flag flies as we get the call from the field. It's going to be a false start on the Cougars, so that run by Pratley almost gets wiped off the board, as Cougars are going to have to get reset here. 5 yards, so a 2nd and 3 now turns into a 2nd and 8.
And really just a costly mistake right there. You pick up a good chunk of yards with the Pratley run, and with the penalty, you're almost back to where you started.
Here's the snap. Pratley's going to keep it again. Another counter motion almost, as he gets brought down. No sweep that time, but Pratley's still going opposite way the running back was, as he maybe picks up a yard. And now the Cougars have 3rd and 7 to go here for a 1st down.
I'm interested to see what play is called right here. Usually the Cougars have shown that they like to run the ball on 3rd downs, but when you're in your own territory, I'm just interested to see what the play call might be.
You almost think they have to go through the air here, but that hasn't really been the go-to card, as they do give it off. Blake Henson, he gets stuffed in the middle of the field. Doesn't pick up much, definitely does not pick up enough for the first down, as Cougars are going to send out the punt unit once again here. Well into their own end of the field, as Ryan Auer is going to be right on the end zone line about, as now he sets up on the end zone line. So they're going to need a hefty kick here from Auer to give his defense some breathing room.
Auer's first punt of the game was a really good punt. If he can kind of mirror that and really flip the field for Greenville, be excellent for the Cougars.
As he kind of catches this one on the side, it goes out of bounds. The 32-31 yard line, so good field positioning here for Greenville. Auer last year as punter averaged 32.2 yards a punt. His longest was a 56-yarder. As again, I think he kind of caught that ball on the wrong side of it, as he ended up sending it out of bounds into the Greenville bench. And the Cougars once again sound like a broken record here. They're going to have to rely on their defense for a key stop.
Absolutely, and the defense has just continued to bail out the offense. But when the defense is on the field the majority of the game, eventually they're going to start wearing down. It's going to be important for this Cougar offense to get going so their defense doesn't keep having to run back and forth and kind of wear out, exhaust a little bit.
Yeah, and this is where the defense ran into trouble last year, Parker, was later in the game. That's when they really got beat. It wasn't early in the game in the first half, as trying to go for a rush here is Terrence Brown, the wide receiver. T.J. Brown he'll pick up a couple yards. The officials chatting, and Cougar gets sent off the field. So it's going to be 2nd down and 5 now.
Looks like they brought in freshman linebacker Jeremiah Salmo, kind of in the center of that Cougar defense.
Salmo out of Green River, Wyoming, as Paul Garrett takes the ball, and he's going. He's got to break a few tacklers, and he does. Hits the pylon for no good, no touchdown. The nearest official waves it off, saying he stepped out of bounds before hitting the pylon, as all the officials have a talk now. So it wasn't a touchdown, but it was the closest thing you can get to a touchdown, as it's basically inches and goal here.
I absolutely thought that was a touchdown. It looked like Paul Garrett definitely got the edge. Looked like he might have tapped the pylon with the football. And from up here, don't have the best view, but on-field referee knows best.
So they hand it to Garrett again, and all he has to do is dive his way into the end zone, sidesteps a few Cougars, and that'll be a Panthers touchdown. So they're going to go 14 points up on the Cougars, assuming the point after is good here. And Paul Garrett gets touchdown number 1 on the year, a year after he had 22 touchdowns, which is just an incredible mark for someone who's only playing in 10 games. And he starts off the season with 1 here. Hermo sets up for the point after the kick is up, and it is going to be good. And so 14-0 is your score here now in River Forest. We're going to take a quick break on the Cougar Sports Network. When we come back, the Cougars offense, they've got some work to do as they trail Greenville by 14 here opening day 2023.
Cougar Nation, we love the support you give us on and off the field. To donate to our athletic communications department, hit the thank button. This helps us continue to have the best live stream possible for some of the great Cougar football moments. Thank you and enjoy the game.
Kickoff about to get underway here in River Forest as the Panthers just added to their lead. They now are up 14-0 on the Cougars as Lucas Hermo just finished off the point after. Gets set for the kickoff now. as his line moves back a little. Couple returners in the back of the field for the Cougars as Henry Jones, it bobbles over his head. He's going to decide to take it now. I think he has to, as he's going to get brought down right after the 15-yard line. Jones, I think he got fooled a little bit by that one. He had to back up. It bounced out of his hands onto his helmet, and by the time he actually got a hold of it, he was a foot into the end zone. So not a great return, as there is a Panther down on the field. But, Parker, the pressure is on this offense now. You're down by 14 at 9:16 left to go here in the first half. I mean, at this point, you need to see something out of your offense. Not necessarily just to say, hey, we're back in this game, but just to see that you can, in fact, put points up on the board, as something that's offense hasn't done yet this season and has struggled to do the last few seasons. Last year, offensively, the Cougars were 8th in the NAC at 18.7 points a game. That was second to last only to Eureka College, as the Greenville player still down on the field.
And really what the Cougars need right here is a slow, methodical drive, really not just for the offense to kind of get going a little bit, but for the defense as well. The defense has been on the field a large majority of the game, and they're kind of wearing down as this first half is progressing. Offense just need a good drive right here.
Yeah, and that was where Coach Lambert, Chase Hankins, and their offense really thrived last year, and one category was just eating up the clock. In terms of time of possession, this was a team who was, they were middle of the pack, but for a team who didn't score a lot of points, their time of possession to points scored ratio was kind of shocking in that regard. So even though they had trouble finishing off plays, they did a really good job of just keeping the ball in their hands and giving this defense a rest when they needed to, and that's what they need right now. They need some points, but they also need to give this defense a breather.
And if you think about it, there's a little over 9 minutes left on the clock. I've seen drives that have taken about that long for the Cougars, and a drive right here where they really just take some time off the clock. If they can get a score right here, make it 14-7, Cougars get the ball coming out of halftime. And that would be huge momentum swing for the Cougars.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out, Parker, is that the dream scenario right now is you beat up a lot of clock, you end that with a touchdown, maybe even a field goal just to put points up, and then you maybe only have to keep them off the board for a minute, two, and then you get the ball right back in the second half, a chance to put up even more points. So this could be a turning point for the Cougars. They need to put something up, as Troy Prattley, the keeper, is going to get brought down. Bringing in the tackle is number 46, Mitchell Schaefer, sophomore. Haven't had a lot of chances to just talk about the individuals of this, front four for the Panthers. Chris Williams, Trevor Stewart, Mitchell Schaefer, and Thomas Lanier.
Definitely more of a traditional style defense. Usually in this more modernized college football defense, we see lots of 3-4s.
As getting the ball on that one was Blake Henson. He's brought down, as this is going to bring the Cougars right about to the line of scrimmage again. That first play was a loss of about 1. They're maybe a few inches in front of the line of scrimmage marker, as they need a 3rd and 10 completion here, essentially, to get that first down.
And really, the Cougars are doing a great job of, yes, they're a no-huddle offense, which means they typically go fast, but they really waste clock getting the play call in late as Prattley goes down right there.
Prattley goes down in the backfield. Having heavy pursuit was Trevor Stewart, the junior defensive lineman, and that's going to bring up 4th and long. And it's basically a no-brainer. You have to put the punt unit out there. And, Parker, that's exactly the opposite of what we wanted to see from the Cougars. They needed a long drive to just eat up some clock, and instead they go 3 and out. Now there's going to be a punt, and assuming it's a punt like the last few we've seen from Auer, this isn't going to be great field positioning for the Cougars defense.
No, and just need a good punt right here from Auer as we see the penalty flag fly.
So the Cougars might have another chance here, as grabbing it is Jabri Berry, and he gets a decent return to the 25-yard line, but there is a flag, so we're going to have to see if this ball is coming back in any fashion or moving back in any fashion, as the officials meet the head referee now, ready to make the call. I think he's talking it over with Coach Lambert. He's covering up his mic with his hand, so I think he's getting the call straightened out before he announces it. So it's an illegal formation on the defense, which means, unless I'm mistaken, the Cougars are going to re-punt it here. They get about 5 yards added to the original spot. So it's still going to be a punt, but hopefully some better fielding position. And Ryan Auer now gets another shot at a long bomb downfield.
And that was kind of a bailout for the Cougars offense. Once again, Auer, another chance to get a better punt off. And I know Coach Lambert was thanking the official for making that call.
And Jabri Berry had a decent return on the punt return as well, so that negates that too, as Ryan Auer gets a second shot at a punt. This one, it's going to bounce right in front of the 50-yard line. Berry's going to take it, and he's dodging some tacklers, not getting much out of it, though, as he steps out of bounds. About the Greenville Panthers 47-yard line. So still not a terribly long punt. Takes a nice bounce, though, and Panthers at least have to set up on their half of the field.
Took a really nice Cougar bounce, but again, we just see the elusiveness of the punt returner Jabri Berry. Saw Ryan Ayers kind of misguided angle, and he's just able to make a few people miss and get a few yards off of the punt return right there from Berry.
So the Cougars defense has to get back to work. They've been working a lot already this game, as the Panthers offense scored their first touchdown, as Peyton Bates is just going to keep this one. He's going to get a first down and a little more. Finally brought down by number 18, Nico Gibson of the Cougars. I don't think we really expect to see that out of Peyton Bates. His first rush of the game, and he gets well more than a first down.
And it was just your traditional read option. What that means, Peyton Bates opening up to the left, reading that defensive end. Both the end and outside linebacker crash, which means a pull read for Peyton Bates. Nice job of getting the first down, moving the sticks.
Excuse me, number 18 for the Cougars is Damari Grant. He was the one with the tackle, as Bates now throws it. It's bopped around, and it lands in the hands of Adrian Hinton. What a weird play there that hit the chest of one Cougars defender. I think another one got some hands on it, and then it somehow ended in the hands of Adrian Hinton, the running back. And so it still turns into a gain of 6 yards for the Panthers.
It's definitely not something you see every day. It looked like inside linebacker for the Cougars, Brandon Arredondo. A little surprised to see the ball up in the air, but Greenville will take whatever they get.
So Greenville 2nd and 4 here, as they're going to hand it off to Hinton now, as he gets the first down. Gets brought down by a mob of bodies. So Hinton was supposed to get the ball that time and turns it into a first down a little more. And now Panthers 1st and 10 on the Cougars' 26-yard line.
Panthers are really moving the sticks right here, kind of trying to dwindle that clock a little bit. As we see, we're about 5.5 left in the second quarter.
Yeah, this offense seems to be finding the rhythm as the game goes on. Their drives are getting a little more smooth, a little more consistent, and then the last one obviously ended in a touchdown, as they're moving the chains well on this drive. As now we got a whistle and a flag. I think the ball is going to get moved back a little bit. Cougars are pointing that way, and it will be a 5-yard penalty on the offense. So Cougars a little help here as it's now 1st and 18.
And now that's the second delay of game we've seen from the Panthers, and really you can't do that for a senior quarterback, Peyton Bates. That was his fault both times. You can't have that.
And, it is the first game of the year, so these teams are working out the kinks a little bit as Bates hands it off to Hinton. He gets brought down behind the line of scrimmage. Multiple Cougars in on the tackle. Number 48 as well as number 90. That's Daniel Davenport and Justin Pierce, respectively, were the two main Cougars in the backfield causing some havoc. So it'll be 2nd down now and 16.
Really nice job of the defense, really as a collective unit, not just one person individually, but as a collective unit, really flying to the football. And it really started, like you mentioned, with Daniel Davenport up front.
Greenville. 2nd down is Bates. He's going to look towards the sideline. It's off the tips of the fingers of T.J. Brown. That was a pass behind the line of scrimmage, and Brown had a man on his heels, so I don't know if that would have gone anywhere anyways. Good coverage there by the Cougars as they force a 3rd and long, likely out of field goal range of Lucas Hermo. His longest of last season and of his career total was 37 yards, as he was an 83% kicker last year. So a stop here, you keep him from gaining a big chunk of yards. I think you're going to be able to keep him off the board here.
And really, that was just an out route to the far side of the field. Peyton Bates, not necessarily known for his arm strength. That's a hard throw for any quarterback to make.
And Bates, well, in the pocket. He's in trouble, so he just has to throw it and get rid of it. Justin Pierce penetrating the offensive line. Bates just had to keep backing up, and eventually he just has to throw it to avoid getting sacked as the offense looks to the sideline. And they might, Parker, they might just go for it here because they're too far out from field goal range. A punt's likely to be a touchback at this point, so why not? Just go for it. If you get something, great. If you're not, you're still in decent positioning for your defense to make something happen.
I say they're absolutely going to go for it. And the previous play, they're just trying to get a screen off, gain some yards. Great job of that Cougar front 7 really sniffing it out and just forcing Bates to throw it away.
Bates now, he has to look downfield, and he throws it into the ground. No good. He was looking for T.J. Brown, way too short, and that'll be a 4th down turnover for the Panthers, the second one we've seen today, and the Cougars might have a chance for a nice long drive to end the half here. 3:57 left to go in the first half. As you can see, the Panthers defense, they're ready to go, and they should be, Parker. This is a defense. They've played extremely well. They've only allowed 106 total yards, 4 rushing yards. That might be the biggest statistic. We talked about how big this rushing game is for the Cougars. They've got less than 5 yards on the day. So this Panthers defense has a reason to be revved up, ready to go.
Both defenses really playing well. The Greenville defense got plenty of rest time. They're coming out ready to go.
As Prattley looks, and it's going to be dropped. Not sure who the intended receiver was there. It looked like it was going to Devin Bledsoe, but I think it hit somebody else in the mismatch of players. So
right there, just trying to get that tunnel screen to really target Devin Bledsoe. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, they really want to emphasize getting him the football. And just, again, what it goes back to is there wasn't that blocking. And when you're running a tunnel screen like that, you really rely on the offensive line. They just weren't able to get to their guys.
Devin Bledsoe is listed as the intended receiver. It was broken up by Braden Wells. As here's a hand off to Blake Henson. He tries to turn the corner, and he gets stuffed. Greenville was on that one from the snap, and that's going to move the Cougars back 2 yards. And so they got a third, and 12 to convert here for a first down. And Parker, it's only the second half. Still plenty of time to score 14 points. It's just a 2-possession game, but this almost feels like a must convert for the Cougars because you haven't really been doing anything on offense up until this point. You're about to go into halftime, but there's still going to be about 3 minutes or so by the time this drive is over. If it does end on this down, that gives Greenville plenty of time to make something happen.
A score right here would be absolutely vital. You don't want to go into halftime with a 0 on the board.
Blake Henson, he turns the corner, and he gets pushed out of bounds in front of his own bench. So he's able to get past the line of scrimmage, but not close enough for a first down. It will be 4th down here as the offense shows no signs of coming off the field.
I think they're sending the punt team on a little
now
late.
Now the punt team looks to be coming on. It's 4th and 5, and we're getting to that point where maybe you question going for it, maybe you give it the slightest of thought, as that offense wasn't immediately off the field, but
I don't see the Cougars going for it, especially in their own territory, and you don't want to get the ball in the hands
as it's dropped
Jarrett.
by Auer, and he gets hit. The ball is on the ground. Now he scoops it up and just turns over. And so a botched snap to punter connection means that Greenville is going to start this drive in the red zone. And Parker, that was about the worst thing that could happen for the Cougars, as they go from giving their defense a chance to end the half on a high note to this defense has to end the chance on a high note now, or you're looking at a 3-score deficit here.
A couple of things. That wasn't necessarily a bad snap from Dennis Vanderplow, just a botched exchange. Auer not able to corral it. And another thing, if the Greenville offense is able to score right here, going into halftime down 21, it's going to be hard for this Cougars offense to come back, especially when they haven't been able to generate much of anything on the offensive end.
Big possession here as Bates looks into the end zone, and it's broken up. Nice defensive play there from Cameron Maybins, a freshman from Lombard, Illinois, Glenbard East alum, not too terribly far from River Forest. As Jabri Berry was the intended receiver there in the end zone. Bates just deciding to go for all the marbles on the first play of the possession, and now he hands it off to Garrett. Garrett weaves through some defenders, finally gets tripped up, but not before almost picking up the first down, as it's going to be about 3rd and a yard here.
And going back to the previous play, Peyton Bates really trying to target Cameron Mabins, who is a young corner for this Cougars team.
As Garrett gets stuffed again, this time, but they're going to mark him at the 1-yard line, the 2-yard line, excuse me, it looks like. Kind of hard to tell from up here. Either way, they're within 2 yards of putting in another touchdown, as I think they're going to maybe run the clock down here. 20 seconds on the play clock, as no, they're just going to go for it. About 1:45 left to go in the first half, as Bates sends a man in motion. They hand it off to number 2. That's Matt Tiger, and he's going to step in the end zone before getting bounced out. Another touchdown for Greenville. They're now up 20-0 on the Cougars.
And right there, the Cougars were expecting the Panthers to run up the middle, and they try to get Matthew Tiger out on the perimeter, which is exactly what they do. And once he got to the outside, there was nobody on the perimeter to stop him, and resulted in the 3rd touchdown of the day for the Panthers.
Lucas Hermo, perfect 2 for 2 on extra points this game. Last season, 44 for 48. That's a 92% mark, as this one is off the upright, no good. So Lucas Hermo bangs it off the pipe, and instead of 21-0, it'll be 20-0. As the Cougars, they got 1:36 left in the first half to do something. So we're going to take a breather here in the booth, and when we come back, the Cougars, they got one more drive likely to do something here in the second quarter and bring themselves a little closer within the Panthers, as Greenville up 20-0 on Concordia here on the Cougar Sports Network.
Hey there, we appreciate you tuning in to today's game. To stay up to date on all things CUC football, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CUCFB Family. We'll see you soon on campus.
Special teams head out onto the field. 1:36 left to go here in the first half on the game clock. And Parker, the Cougars, they need something here. They want to go in this halftime break trailing Greenville by less than 3 possessions, which is what the marker's at now, 20-0 here in River Forest. And they're going to have to do something we really haven't seen them do, during the Andy Lambert era, which is score quickly. This is not a big play team, as we'll have more on that as there's a botched exchange. Henson and Henry Jones, neither of them really called for it. They ran into each other as we get whistles flying now. That's just a communication thing, Parker. One of those guys has to call for it.
Yeah, it was definitely communication. Booba Henson was on the far right side of the field. You have Henry Jones in the middle, and Booba really just backed up into Henry Jones' area, and the ball was going to Henry Jones, and that resulted in the botched exchange.
And offsides is called on the Panthers. And we're going to get a redo of the kick here. So the Cougars catch a break there after the botched communication between Henry Jones and Blake Henson because of the flag near the Greenville side. We're going to have a redo of the kick. So Cougars catch a big break there.
Definitely. I know Booba Henson really excited about getting a re-kick because that was just a simple communication mistake, and you can't afford to have too many of those, especially against a talented Panthers team.
Henson no longer in the backfield for the Cougars. It's Jones, Damari Grant, and number 30, Randy Contreras, all set up for a possible return. And Greenville, you mentioned it earlier, Parker, they've done an excellent job of going away from Henry Jones, the main kick returner for the Cougars. This one, and it's just going to bounce on back into the end zone for a touchback. So the Cougars elect to not even try to field that one as their offense has some work to do here. 1:34 left on the clock.
2-minute drill is something that the Cougars practice quite often. However, it's hard for me to envision that they'll be able to score in less than 2 minutes. Just seeing what we've seen on the field so far, haven't been able to get much going.
They're on their own 25-yard line. So they have to go 3/4 of the field to get a touchdown. Less than that if they want to settle for a field goal. As Henry Jones now gets pushed out of bounds right after the line of scrimmage. Picks up a yard, if that. Now they move the marker, so it will be a pickup of 2, actually. So Henry Jones getting a little bit out of that sweep as they set up again. He did get pushed out of bounds. The clock is running again now as Prattley, he's going to take this one himself after looking downfield, and it's a fumble. He might have touched the ground first, and the whistle blows. So they are ruling Prattley down. He got swung down to the ground, and I think when he hit the ground is when that ball popped out of his hands.
And by rule, the ground cannot cause a fumble. Prattley is happy about that rule.
Yeah, Dwayne Garrett picked up the ball as soon as it touched the ground, and he was off to the races. So instead, the Cougars get 3rd and 8 here. They're going to have to look downfield, and not only for a first down, but we are now officially less than 1 minute away from halftime. So if they want to do anything, they got to get moving. Prattley, and he's just going to take this one. He gets brought down again right around the line of scrimmage. No gain, and it'll be 4th down now. The game clock reads 38. The play clock just hit 30, so a difference of about 8 seconds.
And Peter, I don't know if you've noticed, but in a 2-minute situation, you have to be urgent. You have to move with some pace. It looked like that Cougars offense didn't really have that sense of urgency. that we've kind of talked about a little bit in the broadcast.
And now we get a timeout called. So the clock will stop. So fresh 25 goes on the play clock while the game clock reads 23. But it is 4th down, so the Cougars can't start the clock. You know, Parker, you're kind of wondering why didn't they let the clock run down even more, as, 23 seconds isn't a lot of time, but we also saw special teams-wise, Greenville's already returned a kickoff for a touchdown. I don't know why you'd give them too much breathing room here, as... Again.
Not sure. I was expecting a little different possession right there from the Cougars, especially in a 2-minute situation. We saw 3 straight run plays. I was expecting them to air it out just a little bit more, and I know the bread and butter of this offense is the run game. However, when you're in a 2-minute situation like that, typically every play is going to be a pass play.
Instead, the Cougars elected to run it every play, and that's what's going to bring up this 4th and 9. As Ryan Auer sets up for the punt once again. Set to receive it is number 2, Matt Tiger for the Panthers. As the whistle blows, the play clock, starts. As here's the snap, and Auer, not too much distance on that one, as everyone's just going to let it bounce. And now falling on it is the Cougars special teamer, number 36. That's Isaac Young. And Greenville going to set up on their own 45-yard line. 22 seconds. So, Parker, you get your opinion. You think they're going to start launching this one downfield, look for something, or is this going to be we're going to take a knee and just let the clock run out, avoid any turnover situations?
If I was the Panthers, you're already up by 3 scores, and there's no need to really try and force anything, especially with the 1 interception Peyton Bates has already thrown. I would just take a knee here and let it go into halftime.
Paul Garrett sets up in the backfield. We could see a handoff to him. He's shown he's capable of breaking out some big runs, so you never know. As Bates is going to look downfield. He finds a man in Delray Crowder for a first down. And you see every member of the Greenville bench trying to call a timeout. Instead, we're just going to let it go. Bates now. And he launches this one downfield, a wide open T.J. Brown, and he drops it. Oh, my goodness. T.J. Brown was in no man's land.
Miscommunication by the defense, and Peyton Bates wishes he had that one back. That might have been the knockout punch we've seen in the first half.
I didn't know what to say. I don't think I've ever seen a receiver that wide open near the end zone. And it wasn't like he just toasted his man. It was just a bad miscommunication from the Cougars defense. We see Bo Flowers as well as Coach Lubriel kind of talking to their secondary like, hey, guys, we got to watch these routes. As now Bates is going to look downfield, and this one's just going to go out of bounds ahead of the Cougars defender, Cameron Mabins. So no harm, no foul. So 4.8 seconds, and I think we have our answer to that question I posed, as Greenville has been launching it downfield, hoping for a big catch or maybe even passers interference. As they got 4.8 seconds, I think Bates will see one more long ball to the end zone, see if you get something, and if not, hey, you're still up by 20 at half. Greenville's going to call a timeout, so Coach Robbie Shoemaker wants to get his offense in gear here a little bit, talk things over, probably draw up that one half-ending play to hopefully get another score out of things or at least draw a flag. But, Parker, we'll talk about it when we'll come back, but what do you think this halftime locker room talk's going to be like for the Cougars? What are some of those adjustments they're going to have to make in order to come out second half looking much better offensively?
If you're looking at the scoreboard, you would probably think the defense has played horrifically. But that has not been the case. The defense has played well. They're just not catching a whole lot of breaks from the offense. Right now, it starts with the offense. Starts with the offensive line, kind of moving those front seven and got to diversify the play calling a little bit. It seems that what's being ran is kind of predicted by this defense, and that's proven to be very costly for the Cougars.
And on top of that, defensively at least, there hasn't been a ton of pressure on Peyton Bates. They haven't been throwing a lot, granted, but that was something this Cougars defense was great at last year, was putting pressure on that quarterback. We haven't seen that a ton so far this game, which means Bates is able to get off long throws, like that one to T.J. Brown, which should have ended up in a touchdown. So Bates gets one more look downfield. He's going to find no one as that hits the foot of the Cougars secondary member, Jonathan Unks. The clock reads at 0. There is a flag, though. A couple flags fly. So we might not be done here in the first half just yet, as the officials converge to talk things over. It should be 4th down, assuming that play counted, but not sure what the flag is just yet. Every member in the Zebra is talking as and so I think they're going to wave off the flag. They do, as the players cautiously head to the locker room, making sure they're not going to get caught back. You always see that embarrassing thing. You know, someone's heading to the locker room and say, hey, we're not done just yet. Get back out here. But that will be the end of the first half. So Greenville heads to the locker room. CUC is going to talk on the sideline quickly before heading to the locker room, I presume. 20-minute halftime, and then we'll be back for the second half. Cougars, Parker, they got some work to do. They trail the Panthers 20-0. We'll have more on that and the rest of the stats when we come back from a break, so don't go anywhere. The Cougar Sports Network will be back in just a minute.
Concordia University Chicago is a Christ-centered Lutheran university where truth, freedom, and vocation form students for lives of influence and service for the common good. Our university offers a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate degree options that are available in person and online. That means we have a program designed for you. Whether you're a high school student, an adult returning to complete your degree, or someone looking to enhance your credentials and prepare for career growth. As a member of this university community, you'll also find support in your spiritual and personal life so you can grow in the faith and discover ways to serve others. To start your next journey with us, visit cuchicago.edu today.
I'm Monica here at Concordia University Chicago, and we're here outside of Concordia Hall. Concordia Hall is the university's newest residence hall, right on the edge of campus, perfect for students who want to explore the nearby downtown of Oak Park and River Forest. The flexible suite-style living in fully furnished bedrooms lets students choose what works best for them. Every floor is complete with a community lounge and full common kitchen, with a kitchenette, microwave, sink, and refrigerator. The first floor offers the Victory Lounge, connecting to 2 additional residence halls, with no shortage of ways to relax. You're also right next to an open, outdoor plaza, better known as Victory Lane. So now we're here in Concordia Hall's suite-style dorm room, and this is a really nice place to just hang out and chill. And since it's so big, there's plenty of room to spread out and do your homework and just relax. So now making our way into one of the bedrooms, there's plenty of space in this room for you and your roommate. A lot of times students will move the desks so that they've got their separate study space, but my roommate and I, we get along really well, so we can just work together here in the same space. Sometimes I like doing art as well, as you can see by the painting here. It's a 16 by 10 feet space, and most rooms on campus are 10 by 12 feet. So it's really nice to have a little extra space to work with here in Concordia Hall. So this hall is super close to the chapel and the Kennecke Community Center, which has the new Crossroads Dining Hall. So the location is super convenient. And I really love the city scene too. The location here is the closest on campus to the Oak Park River Forest downtown area, which has a ton of great stores and restaurants. Speaking of the city scene, I adore the view from this lounge because you can see the Chicago skyline right there. Concordia Hall at Concordia University, Chicago.
Second half about to get underway here in River Forest. Less than a minute out. Cougars trailing the Greenville Panthers 20-0. Both teams back out of the locker room after taking a break from the heat. It is a hot one today, Parker, right around that 90-degree mark. But before we get back to some X's and O's, some schemes, let's look at the stat leaders so far today in terms of touchdowns. Paul Garrett has a touchdown, the rushing leader of the UMAC last year, 68 yards gained, loss of 2, so 66 net and 9 rushing attempts. Meanwhile, in terms of receivers, the only receiver with double-digit yards for Greenville is Delray Crowder. He's got 19. And Quintrell Clay started the game off with a kickoff return for the Concordia Chicago Cougars. Blake Henson leads the rushing game with a net of 7. That rushing game is going to need a major boost to start doing something here at Parker. Receiving-wise, it is Henry Jones, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Chase Levy has 1 reception for 85 yards, so he's the yard leader, while Henry Jones is the reception leader. Running in terms of the quarterback play, Peyton Bates 4 for 15, 1 interception, 34 yards. Meanwhile, Troy Prattley 4 for 6 for 102 yards. But Parker, let's talk about that scheme a little bit more. The rushing game just is not working out for the Cougars. 20 rushing attempts. They have a net of negative 11 yards. So you got to think the passing game is going to be the key here in the second half.
Yeah, a negative 11 rushing yards is unacceptable for a first-half performance, but we saw that the Cougars were fairly successful passing the ball. We saw that one deep pass to Jace Levi that went for 85 yards off of a go route, and so far the Cougars have not come back to the passing game. Troy Prattley over 100 yards through the air. If the Cougars kind of diversify the play calling a little bit, kind of air it out a little bit more, the second half could be a different storyline than what we're seeing.
Again, only 6 attempts for Troy Prattley out of the passing game. He's completed 4 of them. Again, those 85 yards to Levi do help a lot in terms of boosting his yards, but they just have not been going to him as an offensive option. But maybe that'll change this half as Hermo gets set for the kickoff. Cougars got 3 returners in the backfield, and we'll see who gets it. And they're just going to let this one bounce into the end zone, so it'll be a touchback for CUC. Their offense is going to kick things off at the 25-yard line.
And right here is an excellent opportunity to march down the field and score and show that you've completely forgotten the first half. The first half is over with. Back to 0-0 score. That needs to be the Cougars' mindset going into the second half.
Offense and defense head out to the field now. Troy Prattley back under center for the Cougars. Again, 4 for 6 in that first half. A total of 102 yards as they're going to hand it off. First thing here, it is Henry Jones. He's not able to turn the corners. He's going to get brought down in the backfield.
And we've seen the perimeter blocking. It's been a struggle this afternoon for the Cougars. We saw Jones was trying to turn the corner. It didn't have any room, ran out of green grass, and that just goes to show you the perimeter blocking really needs to step up in the second half.
2nd and 14 now for the Cougars. Again, that right tackle, Ezekiel Pearson, a freshman playing in his first collegiate game, as Prattley looks for a short completion and brought down again in the backfield was the receiver. Waiting to get a bead on that number. Looks like it's Henry Jones again. So he makes the reception but gets brought down for another loss. It's now 3rd and long. 14:05 left to go here in the third quarter.
It seems like the Cougars are kind of drawing up a lot of east to west plays, and targeting more north and south would probably be more beneficial at this stage in the game for this Cougars offense.
Prattley, he's got to escape pressure as this ball gets popped up, and it's caught by Dwayne Garrett. He's going to take it into the end zone, and it'll be a touchdown, Panthers. Looked like it was going to be an incomplete pass as Prattley was in a throwing motion, but the ball landed in the hands of Dwayne Garrett, and he just has to stroll into the end zone. Another Panthers touchdown. It's now 26-0.
And the Cougars are trying to get a big play off, and a simple bootleg to the right, and Troy Prattley got hit from the blind side, didn't see that one coming, resulted in the ball being popped up in the air, and Dwayne Garrett getting a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, Prattley had 4 or 5 white jerseys on his tail, and I think he was just trying to get rid of it. And you got to be careful when you do that. I know you're a former quarterback, Parker. I don't need to tell you that, as the extra point is up and good for Hermo. And so just a minute and 20 into the game, into the second half, the Panthers strike again, this time defensively, and they are now up 27-0 off the Dwayne Garrett interception and touchdown.
And this Cougars team really looks out of it. It's a 4-score margin. Greenville has all the momentum. They are just keeping the foot on the gas pedal, and just want to see how this Cougars team responds, because they've been in this situation before. But you want to you want to play throughout the second half, try to play as well as you can, try to end the game on a high note, something to build off of going into next week.
Offensively, last year, the Cougars were last in the conference in yards per game at 234. Right now, they're sitting at just 84, so well below that mark they set last year. And, Parker, those conference rankings are always a good sign to tell where your team is progressing. You're not going to see a huge jump year to year necessarily, as this one is fielded by the returner Grant, and he's going to take it to the sideline and out right around the 30-yard line. So it's a decent return out of it. But going back to that ranking part, you're not going to see a huge jump year to year. You know, Cougars had the 9th yards per game last season. It's not like they're going to go to number 1 this year, but you just want to see that steady progression. You want to see them getting better. You know, maybe this year they finish 7th, and then next year they finish 5th, 4th, whatever it may be. And so far in this game, at least, it looks like they're almost taking a step back from what we saw last year. I know it's first game. You're getting those first game jitters out, but this is not what you want to see out of the first game for a Cougars team, 3rd year under a head coach, trying to make things happen.
And you got to remember, too, this is a Greenville defense 2nd in the conference last year, and they're trying to kind of run east to west, get outside of the perimeter, and right now the perimeter is just not working. Take it more north and south. That'll help you take that step forward that you were talking about.
Well, Blake Henson with a good run there brings it to 2nd and 2. Henson hasn't really gotten going yet, and I think the running back position is a really interesting one for the Cougars. More on that after this play as Prattley gathers the snap. He has his man, and it is going to be almost intercepted. Jumping up and getting some hands on it was number 26 for Greenville, Cortland Harris, and he just cannot gather it. So he breaks up the pass, but running back-wise, Parker, what I was talking about is this is a team who they've always prided themselves on the running back. DeAndre Daniels, Darian Sykes from last year and the year before were both really good running backs in their own rights, and both of them are gone now from the team, so they're kind of looking for who's that next leader going to be, who's that next running back to continue the tradition of CUC having some of the best running backs, not only in the conference, but sometimes the country. I mean, remember Lance Moyes, from 2012, that almost undefeated team, 10-1. I mean, this is a team who that running back position's always been their bread and butter. They're trying to find that now with Henson, a sophomore, and then Joran Brown, a freshman.
Yeah, and right now they're kind of relying on some of their older receivers. We see on that last play, the pass attempt to Jace Levi. It was a very dangerous pass as it was thrown into double coverage, and we see Jace Levi kind of having to play DB because the ball was more prone to end up in the hands of the safety coming over from the middle of the field. Jace Levi just had to turn into a corner right there and knock out the ball. Nice play by him, even though they were not able to convert offensively.
And, I do like the play calling, though. It is 3rd down. You figure you get a decent rush. You're going to get that first down. So why not use it down to try and go downfield a little bit, see what you can get. Obviously, it didn't work out and almost turned into a disaster. But now you got 3rd down. You just need to pick up a few yards, which hopefully through the rushing game, that shouldn't be too hard a task. as the Cougars head back out, timeout over, as they just need 2 yards here to pick up a first down. As Prattley's going to roll out, he's going to look downfield, and he finds a man and a first down in number 6, Levy. The junior having himself a really nice debut game for the Cougars. Again, a transfer from Iowa Central Community College. And he brings that first down for the Cougars. It's first down number 3 on the day for CUC.
Really nice play by Levi. We've seen this a couple of times, really finding the hole in the middle of the zone, sitting it down. Prattley finds him. They're able to move the chains. And this is that slow, methodical drive that we've kind of been talking about that we haven't quite seen yet, that the Cougars need to continue.
Prattley now has to elude a tackler, and he's looking downfield, and he gets sacked in the backfield. Number 13 for Greenville. That's Paul Garrett. Is that number 43? Excuse me. That is not Paul Garrett. It's Braden Wells. Got my numbers mixed up there. It'd be pretty impressive, though, to see Paul Garrett making tackles in the backfield.
Playing both sides of the ball.
So number 43, misspoke. That is Braden Wells with the tackle, linebacker. And it's now going to be 2nd and 13 for the Cougars. Prattley just took a little bit too long finding a man as Henson now. And Henson breaks off a nice run here and gets the Cougars back above the line of scrimmage. It's going to be 3rd down here and 7.
Nice play from Bula Henson, really finding the hole in that B gap on the left side. Finds it, puts his foot in the ground, gets north and south for a good chunk of yardage right there.
Yeah, Henson has looked a lot better so far in this second half. He's finding those gaps, which when you're Henson, who isn't the biggest of running backs out there, you got to be able to find those holes and easily slip through them. He's doing that pretty well here so far in the 3rd quarter. As Prattley gets pressured quickly, he's just got to dump it off to a man at the line of scrimmage who's brought down quickly. That was Joran Brown on the reception. And that's going to bring up 4th down as the Cougars trot out the punt unit. 4th and 10. And the Greenville defense doing what they've been doing all day, standing tall. They're going to force another punt from Ryan Auer.
And I think something interesting right there, we saw a screen pass on 3rd down. Prattley trying to get it to Jerron Brown, who we haven't seen quite yet. But fun fact, Jerron Brown and Troy Prattley, both teammates in high school at St. Joseph's in Michigan.
And it's another botched punt here as picking up the ball and taking it is the Greenville defender. He's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. The Panthers strike again thanks to the scoop and score from Isaiah Hayes as whistles are blown. I think we're going to make sure this is actually a touchdown. And it is. We get the official sign from the referee. And so another special team blunder from the Cougars results in another Panthers score. And Parker, it's kind of shocking to see this. We talked at the beginning of this broadcast just how good this Cougar special teams unit has been over the past few seasons, especially under Coach Lubriel. And so far, they've had quite a number of just blunders here so far today, and a few of them have even led to scores.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the pregame, how Coach Sevi really likes to get his special teams very energized. He's a very energetic, enthusiastic coach. And so far, special teams has just looked kind of dead here in the second half.
Hermo sends it through the uprights for the extra point. 34-0 now is your score. We're going to take a break here on the broadcast. And when we come back, the Cougars will get the ball once again as they trail the Panthers 34-0.
Hey Cougar fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information on the football program, head to CUCougars.com. We hope to see you soon in our next game.
Back here on the Cougar Sports Network, 34-0 is your score in favor of the visiting Panthers as Hamro gets set for another kickoff. And this one absolutely bombed into right before the end zone, bounces into the end zone for a touchback. So the Cougars will set up on the 25-yard line. Hamro's going to have to, I think, ice his leg down after this game because he's been kicking it off a lot, Parker. But Parker, it's pretty much, it has been do or die for the Cougars the last couple drives, and every time they get the ball, it just seems to be a more dire and dire situation as this Greenville offense is really finding their groove. And even then, these 14 points they've scored in the second half, the first one was thanks to Dwayne Garrett's interception and touchdown return, and then the last one was the scoop and score from number 36, Isaiah Hayes. So
we've seen a little bit of diversification within the play calling, at least in the second half, but really that offensive line is kind of struggling to find that chemistry that they kind of had in the first half. I haven't seen that as much in the second half. You know, right tackle Ezekiel Pearson, a freshman, and center Tanner Mosley, also a freshman, and they're just kind of having to learn on the fly, being thrusted into the fire right away.
You know, the Cougars, I think the center position is where you really look at. Amir Kavik has been the cornerstone of that offensive line the last couple of years. He graduated at the end of last season, which is why Tanner Mosley's getting the start as a freshman. And then, like you said, Parker, Ezekiel Pearson in a key position at that right tackle. And both of them, you know, you don't want to say anything too negative yet. I mean, this is their first collegiate game, and you got to realize at the end of the day, despite what the score is, it is the first game of the year. It is a non-con game. This is the time to figure this stuff out. And you look ahead in the schedule, the Cougars, they'll have one more non-con game next week, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Oberlin College. Then they get a week off, which I think will help kind of reset themselves. They'll be able to look at what they did in their two non-conference games. And then September 23rd at Benedictine. That's the start of conference play. That's going to be a big game for the Cougars as they get set now for an offensive drive.
And especially for these freshmen, you definitely want to figure out these mistakes early before you get to that conference play in 2 weeks.
So a rush there from Joran Brown will get his squad about 5 yards, make it 2nd and 5. As Parker mentioned, Joran Brown, same high school as Troy Prattley. Both went to St. Joseph High School in St. Joseph, Michigan. Prattley has been here. This is his third year now as a junior. Joran Brown, this is year number 1.
Could be an interesting duo here as the game progresses.
As Prattley sends his former high school teammate to his right, and now he hands it off to him. Brown, he's going to just take it up the gut. Maybe get a few out of it. Nothing major, though, short of a first down. So it's going to be 3rd and inches here.
And the thing with Joran Brown, he's a bigger running back than Bubba Henson. He's listed at 6', 194. More of a power back. Bubba definitely more of a speedster scat back type. Joran Brown more of a downhill runner. Offers 2 different sides to the coin for this Cougars run game. And we see Brown getting a large chunk of the carries here in the second half.
Yeah, and the Cougars love that thunder and lightning approach. You know, people have caught it. You got the thunder back. He's the power guy. We've seen that with DeAndre Daniels the last 2 seasons. And then you have the lightning, which is kind of your shifty, elusive running back, which we saw with the Darian Sykes last year as Coach Lambert has to call a timeout here. But Coach Lambert and Chase Hankins, the OC for the Cougars, they really like that dichotomy. You got the power guy. When you need a couple of yards, you just send him up the gut. And you got your speedy, elusive guy, which is he's going to get your big plays, you know, through the passing game when he's turning the corner around the line. And the Cougars, they're looking to find that, hopefully, in Blake Henson and Joran Brown. But again, first game of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple new faces here by the time we're back here in River Forest, which is going to be a hot minute. It'll be on September 30th, 1 p.m. versus Concordia University, Wisconsin. That's homecoming game, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah, we're seeing new faces for sure with Joran Brown. Just kind of the coaches are really just trying to see what he brings to the table. And what he can do offensively. And so far in his debut looks like he could be a solid player at least this season for the Cougars.
And hopefully he stays around for a couple more seasons and you get him some more experience, get him, a little bigger. He's already 6 foot, 194, but he's hitting that weight room, the collegiate weight room. As he gets a first down here, he stays on his feet for even more. Joran Brown says, "You can't bring me down," and picks up way more than a first down.
And that's just a great example of what he offers. You really see the leg drive, bringing a couple of Panther defenders with him. He's so strong in his lower body, and just an excellent display of lower body strength really right there from Joran Brown.
And we're seeing them go to him more and more as this drive goes along, where we barely saw him in that first half. In fact, as Prattley sends him out now, and Prattley's just going to keep this one himself. He's going to rush it up. He's got a good couple yards. It should get a first down out of it. He landed right around the first down marker. C.J. Morris, his helmet came off, so he's going to have to leave the field. Coming on is going to be a new offensive lineman. I think that's Tanner Mosley walking back out. He kicked Jacob Garrison out to left tackle where Mosley was. Well, again, we talked about it. Your helmet comes off, have to come off the field for a play, but Troy Prattley, that's where he's most dangerous, is you get your other players involved, you get your defense off of Prattley, and then he can just go. As there are 2 seconds left here on the play clock, the Cougars barely get it off. Prattley's going to keep it. Flag flies. Prattley gets 5 yards out of it. We'll have to see if this is coming back, though.
Might be a hold on the left side of the offensive line. See, as Tanner Mosley came in for a play for C.J. Morris, might have been a hold by him.
So it is a 5-yard penalty on the Cougars. We'll get that official call here in just a second in terms of our scorebook. Hard to hear the referee from up here. He's sitting behind the crowd. You got all that noise. So it'll be a 1st and 15 now.
This Cougar rushing attack is starting to find a little bit of a groove. This is what Coach Lambert has been looking for, and they want these slow, methodical drives, eat up the clock, move the sticks.
As Prattley rolls out, finds his receiver in Vincent Scarnado. Now he's got the first down and more. He's still up, finally dragged down at Greenville's 20-yard line. So that'll be a 25-yard completion for Vincent Scarnado. That call was a false start on Ezekiel Pearson, number 74, the freshman right tackle for the Cougars.
And Vincent Scarnado, really an interesting storyline. He came in to CUC as a defensive back this season, playing receiver. He's a track guy. He's fast. We see that right there. Put the speed on display, catching the pass, really taking that drop step and moving the sticks.
Prattley airs one out into the corner of the end zone, just beyond the fingertips of the intended receiver, Levi.
That pass right there, going back to the fade. We talked about Levi. He's a physical guy, can high point the ball. It's just a simple fade route. Prattley, the ball a little bit behind, a hard adjustment for any receiver to make, especially when the sun is shining in your eyes as well.
As there is a Cougar down on the field. The fantastic training staff here at CUC attending. Cannot make out the number on it. So we're going to take a break here during the injury timeout. We'll be back in just a second. The Cougars moving down the field as they trail Greenville 34-0. They need a score here and bad.
In finding out more about Concordia Chicago, head to cuchicago.edu for information on our university. We appreciate you tuning in today's game.
Jalen Franklin was the Cougar down on the play. He's back on his feet. And he's off to the sideline to get checked out. Skipping around as he now wants to get checked out. Maybe a cramp. It is a hot day out here as Troy Pratley is going to take this one himself. Gets 3-4 yards out of it. That was second down, so it'll bring up 3rd and 6 here for the Cougars.
Another read option. Troy Pratley putting his foot in the ground and just seeing, even if it's just the tiniest of holes, hitting that hole, getting a couple yards. That's something that Coach Lambert preaches. North and south, find the hole, get to it as fast as you possibly can.
So Cougars in the red zone. 3rd and 6, trying to find their first points of the day. We're over halfway through the 3rd quarter. They hand it off to Joran Brown, and he gets stuffed. Dwayne Garrett looking like a brick wall. I don't know if you saw that, Parker. Brown ran into him full steam, and Garrett just stood him up. Said, "You are not getting by me."
And that's just really the freshman going up against a senior. What Dwayne Garrett was saying on that was, all right, Jerron, you may be able to get away with this against other defenders, but not me.
So a 4th and 2, and the offense is going to stay out, Parker. I think this is a necessary call. If you want any shot at getting back in this game, a field goal is just not going to cut it. You need a touchdown here, and that's what the Cougars are going to try to do. 4th and 2 as Pratley hands it to Blake Henson. There's a pile of bodies. I don't know if he got the first down. The Greenville defense is saying he did not. We're waiting for the official call from the officials.
It doesn't look like it.
It is going to go the way of Greenville. So Blake Henson not able to pick up the 2 yards necessary for the first down. And Greenville forces a turnover on downs here.
Kind of surprised that the Cougars wanted to run it up the middle. It looks like the Panthers were bringing a blitz specifically from that right side of the offensive line. Perimeter play might have been a little bit of better fortune, but this Panthers defense has been lights out all day.
So the offense now will have a crack at it. Even though the Panthers have scored 14 points here, this offense hasn't had to do any of it, as this one's a short dump to tight end Caden Cervantes, who's able to pick up the first down. Cervantes, a junior out of Elko, Nevada. 4 receptions for 75 yards and a pair of touchdowns last year. That is also his total career stats.
Really nice job by Bates, just really taking what the defense gives you. You saw that there was no flat defender, dumping it off to his tight end Cervantes and letting him do the rest. Panthers with a new, fresh set of downs.
Bates now, he puts T.J. Brown in motion, and they're going to instead hand it off to Hinton, who breaks a tackler. Hinton now rushing down the sideline, gets pushed out by the Cougar defender, number 26, Marvin Rushing. Big gain there from Hinton before Rushing pushed him out. Rushing, junior out of Detroit, actually played for Valparaiso back in 2021. Appeared in a single game in the FCS. So some major talent there for the Cougars in the secondary, but he couldn't do much to stop Hinton before the big gain as Hinton gets the ball again. Another first down before he's dragged down.
Right here, the Panthers are just really feeding the hot hand, and Hinton has shown that, at least in the last 2 plays, really showing a mix of speed and power, and they're just feeding him.
Damari Grant was on the tackle, as now there's a Cougar down on the field. I believe that's Jonathan Unks. You can see he's wearing the cast on his left arm, so kind of easy to point out which one he is. And Parker, it is a pretty hot one out here in River Forest, especially for the first football game of the year. You add in the hot turf, which adds easily 10 degrees, even more at some point. I mean, this is the first time these players are playing in a real game situation, so wouldn't surprised to see some cramping down there, just some heat exhaustion, especially as we enter the later stages of this game. But
defense doing a lot of work here, especially when they're having to deal with two running backs, Paul Garrett, Adrian Hennon, having to do a lot of rushing. And Peter, as you mentioned, a hot day, cramps are very likely on a day like this.
So we're going to take a break here, injury time out on the Cougar broadcast, as Jonathan Unks is sitting down now. So we'll be back in just a second. Cougars still trailing the Panthers 34-0.
Hey there, we appreciate you tuning into today's game. To stay up to date on all things CUC football, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CUC FB Family. We'll see you on campus soon.
Well, back already as the offense and defense quick to get out the field once Jonathan Unks was helped off the field. Trying to make out where he is on the sideline as the trainees attend to him. Meanwhile, trying to escape some tacklers were Hinton. He cannot. Brought down right at the line of scrimmage. So it'll be 2nd down and 10.
That Cougar defensive line really firing off the ball right there. Hinton just fighting for any yards he can really get right there. Also wanted to point out nice sportsmanship play by Peyton Bates picking up a Cougar defender who fell on the ground, and that's what you want to see out of your senior quarterback if you're the Panthers.
2nd and 10 for the Panthers. Bates, he's going to hand it off to Hinton again, and Hinton hurdles a defender but gets caught on his way down. Almost a highlight reel play there from Adrian Hinton, but Damari grabbed his foot as he was coming down to trip him up.
Really good job of safety holding on to the foot, able to pull Hinton down. That was almost a Sports Center top 10 play right there.
Yeah, Hinton has been electric so far this drive. Any open space, he is taking it. And if you're Greenville, I mean, I don't think we'll maybe even see Paul Garrett this half as Bates throws that one way out of reach of TJ Brown. But at this point, why play Garrett? I mean, you're up by 34 as we have 3:09 left in the 3rd quarter, and why risk hurting one of your best offensive player, your best offensive player? Why risk an injury concern with him?
That's part of it, and also when Hinton has the hot hand, I mean, really just feed him. And I mean, he's put on a show here in the 3rd quarter.
Shifty, he's speedy, and he's got some agility as he almost hurdled Damari Grant. As they're going to give it to TJ Brown, who gets brought down in the backfield. I should eat my words, though. Paul Garrett is, in fact, on the field, so might not be time to sit him just yet.
No, Greenville has had some successful teams in the past, and they're a team that is going to play all the way until the finish line, and they're not content with only being up 34 right now.
2:40 left to go here in the 3rd quarter. Greenville 34-0 over CUC as it is now 3rd and 10 here on the 20-yard line, CUC's 20-yard line to specify. As Bates is going to keep it. He's just going to try and rush it up himself. He's got some open room, finally brought down by a few Cougars. And I think he just crossed the line of scrimmage, though there is a flag on the play. At the line, back at before the line of scrimmage.
And right there, just your traditional triple option look. Started out as a read for Peyton Bates, was reading the end. Once he saw the end crash, he pulled it. Now he's reading the outside linebacker, allowed him to take it right up the middle, get a few extra yards.
It is on the offense, so Greenville's going to have to come back for a 3rd down and 10. Wait for the official calling up here in the booth.
they have a long way to go now. 3rd and 20 instead of 3rd and 10, as there's another Cougar player down on the field. Like I said, Parker, I think we're going to see the heat really start to take effect here as more and more players are dropping. The official penalty is holding on Thomas Dow, which is what turned the 3rd and 10 into a now 3rd and 20.
Heat definitely a factor in the game so far. I've seen a couple players start to cramp up. Just saw Jalen Franklin on the athletic training table not too long ago. Looked like it might have been a calf cramp. Not exactly sure quite yet.
Yeah, Jordan, one of our athletic trainers, rolling out his calf. He's off the table now, and we'll have to see if he comes back out on offense. Either way, 3rd and 20 now for Greenville, as Bates is going to have to look downfield for a receiver. He uncorks one, and it's going to get intercepted by the Cougars. The 2nd interception of the day. And this one belongs to Cameron Mabins, the freshman getting his first collegiate interception. And the Cougars able to grab the ball back and now have a chance to head downfield and maybe turn momentum a little their way before we head to the 4th quarter.
Yeah, the secondary has played well. Most of the touchdowns from the Panthers have come either off special teams or rushing. But, hey, 2 picks in the secondary. A nice job by Mabins, high-pointing the football, showing off the athleticism, and coming down with the 2nd interception of the day for the Cougar defense.
Again, that first one came back in the 1st quarter. And it came from Damari Grant as the Cougars get set for another offensive drive here. 160 total yards, 130 of those coming through the air, only 29 net rushing yards so far for the CUC team.
Rushing attack has looked a lot better here in the 3rd quarter. The Cougars are just really looking to continue that and find a groove, not even just to try to win this game, just for future.
Prattley's going to hold this one himself, run into a group of tacklers, and be brought down at the line of scrimmage. The only thing about that, Parker, is even though this rushing offense is looking a lot better, if you want any chance of coming back in this game, you can't just rush it. You're going to be eating up too much clock. You need to start throwing downfield, look for those long plays, which just have not been the forte of the Cougars this game as well as the last few seasons. So even though rushing's what's been working recently, it's not going to get the job done here today if the Cougars want to attempt this comeback. As Prattley, he's going to hand this one off, and brought down is the rusher. He gains 3 yards out of it. And it'll bring up 4th and 6 here for the Cougars, but they're just going to run the clock down into 0, and we're going to head to the 4th quarter. The Cougars have a lot of work to do here if they want any chance of tying this one up. They trail the Greenville Panthers 34-0 at the end of 3. They'll have 15 minutes to make some magic happen. Find if they can do that back here on the Cougar Sports Network when we return.
Interested in finding out more about Concordia Chicago, head to cuchicago.edu for information on our university. We appreciate you tuning in to today's game.
Cougars set up for a punt to start the fourth quarter here. Ryan Auerbach, he's had plenty of work punting-wise today, as this one is going to bounce right after the 50-yard line, and Cougars jump on it, so Greenville will be starting at their own 47-yard line, but flags fly after the play. A couple bodies on the ground, maybe some extracurriculars after the play ended. As we wait for the official call as the referees converge and meet. Well, Parker, while we wait for that call, I mean, 34 points, it's a lot of points to score in one quarter, but what do you think is going to be a successful quarter for the Cougars here? What's going to at least end this game on a high note?
At this point in the game, I wouldn't say the Cougars are necessarily trying to win. I would just say their defense has been good, and that's something to definitely build off of. But as far as offense is concerned, they haven't been able to get more than 2 or 3 first downs in a possession. I'd say just really scoring a touchdown and really just finding a groove, finding a rhythm, something to build off of next week going into Oberlin. I would say that is a successful fourth quarter.
So the penalty is on Greenville. Holding was the call, which means they're going to get set back a little bit. Unnecessary roughness is the official call on Isaiah Hayes, so it was added on an extra 15 yards to the punt from Ryan Auer, which was a 29-yarder. So now the two teams set up around Greenville's 34-yard line. Cougars defense back on the field after, like Parker said, having a somewhat successful day. I know the points on the board might not indicate that, but this is one of those games. The scoreboard isn't indicative of the play on the field for the Cougars defensively, as it'll be a gain of 5 for the Panthers.
You got to think, too, the defense has forced some turnovers. Some of those touchdowns that come off of special teams definitely are right. Just because you see a 34-0 does not mean the defense has played horrible. Defense has definitely had some bright points, forcing the turnovers, like I said, getting some 3-and-outs. Definitely something to build off of, a defense that only really returns 4 starters.
Paul Garrett with the rush. Flags on the field. As the refs talk about it, make sure the call is understood across the board. Personal foul on Greenville, so that'll set them back now 10 yards, it looks like. So big kick to the Panthers, and Parker, that is one spot on the stat sheet that does look much better for the Cougars is the penalties. Greenville will be sitting at 9 now, 65 yards, while the Cougars, they're only at 3 for 25 yards. So, and this Cougars team, they've been a very disciplined team under Andy Lambert. Last year, they averaged just 53.9 yards of penalties a game. That was 3rd least in the NAC. So this is a team who they keep their stuff together under Coach Lambert. He keeps his team a well-run ship, as here's a throw caught by Barry. He has to stand up a couple of tacklers. He finally gets brought out of bounds. That'll bring up 4th down.
Yeah, that's definitely a building point. 9 penalties for 70 yards from the Panthers, only 3 for 25 for the Cougars. In that aspect of the game, they have done a lot better than the opposition, something to build off of, and this is something that this young Cougars team just want to find things to really build off of. And we talked about this. This is a non-conference game. It's not the end of the world if you lose it. However, I know no team wants to lose. But the most important thing is getting ready for conference play, finding out what works, what doesn't work.
So 4th down, there wasn't an eligible man downfield for the offense, and Andy Lambert's going to decide to waive it in favor of just taking the 4th down, as Miller and the punt team come out for Greenville. Miller on the day has had 2 punts for 64 total yards. He's averaging 32 a punt. As he gets set for number 3 here. The punt is up. It's a short punt. It's not even going to hit the 50-yard line as it takes a bounce out of bounds. Demary Grant comes in and plays it off the bounce and picks up a couple extra yards the other way. But even without that, that ball did not touch the 50. I think Miller just got too far under that one. Too much of a pop fly.
And right there, Demary Grant just really trying to make something happen. Kind of a heads-up play to get the ball and get a few extra yards. And it's rare to see from a freshman.
Demary Grant, one of those interceptions on the day as he sets his team up at Greenville's own, as the line markers are just moving, Greenville's own 39-yard line. First down marker officially planted. So Cougars get the whistle, get the go-ahead as they put a man in motion. Troy Prattley hands it off. And that was to number 31, Sincere Best, freshman running back from Round Rock, Texas. And I think here's what we were kind of alluding to, Parker, maybe seeing some other faces in that running back room just to try to see what works, see what isn't working. So you kind of, I think the goal is by the time you get to Benedictine in a few weeks, you have your starting group solidified. I think it's kind of in flux these first few games while you sort through some new faces, figure out who's who and who's got what. And once you hit Benedictine, you know your group.
Yeah, and also saw Jerron Brown over on the sidelines getting checked out by the trainers. And we've seen a good amount from Booba Henson today. And really the coaches, like you said, Peter, just trying to see what they have out of Best, just seeing what he can do for the team offensively in this situation.
Third down and 2 to go for the Cougars as they are still looking for their first points of the day. 12:30 left to go here in regulation. As only one man in the backfield. Prattley's going to keep it himself. Looks downfield, uncorks one, and it's going to be caught and dropped. It was in the hands of Levy in the end zone, and then it just fell out of his hands. Cougars that close to scoring their first touchdown of the 2023 season. Instead, it'll bring up 4th and 2.
And Prattley has done well in the passing game today. That there's not much else he could have done on that hit. Levi right in the hands. Just a miscue and one that Levi wishes he had back.
And Levi's been solid so far today receiving-wise. 2 receptions for 96 yards and just wasn't able to reel that one in as the Cougars like to go for it, and they're going to get the first down. Best able to pick up the few yards needed for a fresh set of downs, and the Cougars are not done just yet offensively. They have a fresh set to work with as they continue to march to the Greenville end zone.
This is the drive that we have yet to see. Just really eating up the clock, picked up a couple first downs, just trying to figure things out offensively, and it seems that they're finding some answers here late in the game.
They line up again. And in motion, Prattley holds it again. Looks downfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Is he in? He's not. Out of bounds was the receiver.
I believe that was Levi again.
That was Levi again. An impressive catch. And
just not able to get a foot in.
They're not going to rule it complete at all. So not only is it no touchdown, it's no completion, which means Cougars are going to be back at the original line of scrimmage for 2nd down. Running back in the backfield for the Cougars is number 34, James Sutter, freshman out of Milwaukee, was the running back out there. Now there's a new man in the backfield. That's Jordan Garcia, as he's able to get some yardage out of the handoff.
And one thing about Jordan Garcia, hasn't got a whole lot of play time today. We're seeing his face for the first time today. One of the things about Jordan Garcia that he brings to the table is his vision. He has phenomenal vision. When he's able to find the hole, he's able to put his foot in the ground, then use his speed to really accelerate, pick up some yards. He had a great spring practice the past 2 seasons, and the Cougars are trying to get him involved here late in the game.
And now we're going to get a false start here as the flags go. See who exactly jumped first, yellow or white, and the Cougars are going to be backing up, so I'm assuming this one's going to go on then. Yep, false start on the Cougars, so we'll get set to replay.
Not sure right there if that was a miscommunication with the center. It looked like a couple players were ready, but when they saw the ball wasn't snapped, didn't know whether to go or stand still. Not exactly sure whose fault that was there.
So 3rd and 12 as Prattley gets the low snap. He has to roll, and he finds a wide open man in Henry Jones. Jones takes it into the end zone. Touchdown, Cougars!
Excellent job of Prattley rolling out to the left, and there was nobody within 5 yards of Jones. You get it in the hands of one of your best athletes, let him do the rest, and a wonderful touchdown right there from the Cougars here in this 4th quarter.
Jones' first touchdown of his career as a Cougar, and Cougars' first touchdown of the 2023 season. Ryan Auer sets up for the point after. But, yeah, just great route running. Jones was wide open, and then he was just able to evade one or two tacklers. Got a nice block from one of his teammates as the extra point is up, and it is good. So the Cougars able to put 7 up on the board. They now trail 34-7 here in the 4th quarter as we got 10:50 left to go in regulation. And, Parker, now's the time where I think you said it earlier where, yes, maybe a tie, maybe getting back in this game isn't entirely possible right now just because of how large the deficit is, but maybe you could still make a little noise here. Show that those first 3 quarters, that's not the team you're going to be this year. You're going to be able to put points up on the board. You just had a little trouble getting there, and then you can head into Oberlin next weekend feeling a lot better about yourself.
And right now it's really just finding out what works. The first half, there wasn't a whole lot working for them in the first half, but in the second half, they're finding plays like what we just saw. Prattley rolling out to his left. We've seen him rolling out to the right quite a bit, rolling out to the left, finding Jones on what looked like to be a curl, and he just takes it into the end zone.
So Cougars get on the board. They trail 34-7 now after the Henry Jones touchdown from Troy Prattley. Prattley gets his first touchdown on the year. And now Ryan Auer set for the kickoff. And it's going to be dropped by the returner. That's number 25. And he's still on his feet, finally gets pushed out of bounds. That was Quintrell Clay, who returned the opening kickoff of the day for a touchdown. Haven't really seen him elsewhere as he gets another decent return here. Greenville ready to head back out offensively. We saw maybe a few different looks from them in their last few drives, like Adrian Hinton getting a lot of carries rather than Paul Garrett, who's been relatively quiet this game. Haven't had a ton of reasons to use him, granted, but on the day, Garrett, 68 yards for 1 touchdown, which decent stat line, but nowhere near on the pace we saw him last year as. Now getting the handoff is number 21, stays on his feet before getting pushed out a few yards after the line marker. That was For the Panthers, Kobe Bradley, sophomore running back out of Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Seeing a couple new faces for this Panther offense.
Peyton Bates still under center for now, as referees are getting the clock running here. Bates hands it off to Tiger. Tiger surveying the line, and he finds a hole, and the ball pops loose. The Cougars jump on it. Do they have it?
Looks like
they are
do.
signaling they do, and the official call from the referee is CUC ball. Turnover, Cougars. They got the ball right back.
Now just continue off of what we saw last drive. We saw those are the types of drives that Coach Lambert wants. Now you got to build off of that. And, Peter, if you end the game on a couple high notes like that, the Cougars have found what they want in the second half.
So the offense will head back out to the field. We're waiting to see who that fumble was credited to. So Tiger is the one who fumbled it, forced by Demary Grant. He's been all over the field today. An interception and now a forced fumble. It was recovered by Gavin Dace. As we have a new man under center for the Cougars, Jacob Redmond gives a hand off, and Cougars able to pick up a couple of yards out of it. Redmond, a sophomore out of Bishop, California, hailing from Bishop Union High School. 5 games played last year, 2 for 6, 16 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions in his freshman year as a Cougar. And Parker, again, he's another former teammate of yours. What can you tell us about Jacob Redmond, just kind of preview to his game?
Well, the thing that CUC is blessed with is they have 2 athletic quarterbacks. Jacob Redmond's a great runner. He glides. He's really fast. He's just an athlete, and we see that on display right here.
He takes it up, gets the first down and more. First down plus about 4 extra yards. Jacob Redmond able to move through some tacklers. And Parker, you love seeing a guy like that who, when they're running, they can stay upright, they can stay on their feet, so they can keep that momentum forward. He doesn't get too close to the ground. He's just able to keep his stature even while he's eluding tacklers.
And for Jacob, you know, he doesn't have a whole lot of game experience. Got some play time towards the end of last season, but he's very poised. He doesn't get rattled easily, and he's an athlete, and that's what, you know, Coach Lambert really likes about him.
Redmond now, he rolls out. He's going to send this one downfield, and just off the hand, off the intended receiver, Gabe Dace. Gabe, a freshman out of Sullivan, Missouri. It was actually his brother, Gavin, who picked up that fumble recovery.
Another set of brothers this side, this time just on the opposite side.
Yeah, Garrett's for the Panthers have been great, as both of them have scored a touchdown today. Paul Garrett, a rushing touchdown, and then Dwayne, an interception return. Meanwhile, we got the Dace brothers for the Cougars. Gabe almost had a big one there. Meanwhile, Gavin had the fumble recovery, which is the reason the Cougars have the ball right now. 2nd and 10, as it's a botched handoff, and just falling on it is the running back for the Cougars, trying to avoid catastrophe. So there's a botched handoff to Best.
And it really started with the snap. We see Jacob Garrison at center, just kind of trickled the ball down there. Good job by Redmond, just trying to pick it up and trying to avoid catastrophe like you said. Nice job by Best, just falling on it and not making things worse.
So it's now 3rd and 8 for the Cougars, as Redmond sends Best out, and he fumbles the reception. I don't know if they ruled it a catch, and they're going to say it was incomplete, I believe. The officials talk about it now, as Best had the ball in his hand for less than a second before it popped out.
Usually the receiver is supposed to take 2 steps Then if the ball gets knocked out, then it would be a fumble. He didn't take any steps after making the catch, so no fumble.
It is ruled an incomplete pass, which will bring up 4th down here for CUC. I believe, looks like they're going to go for it. The offense still out on the field. No movement from the punt team as the offense is staying out there. So they're going to go for a 4th and 8 on Greenville's 36-yard line. As Redmond now, he launches this one downfield. Dace is not able to reel it in, and there's a flag. So the pass interference call is coming. And Parker, that's about the best case scenario. If it isn't a catch, at least try to draw something, give your team some new life, as the officials confer the call and confirm it. Pass interference on the defense, so Gabe Day's not able to reel it in, but able to draw the flag, and CUC able to pick up some yards because of it. Fresh set of downs.
And it's just as good as making the reception, because now you get the ball almost at the red zone. Nice job by Dace, really drawing the foul. Just made a little contact from the corner. That's what drew the penalty.
So fresh set of downs as Redmond drops it. He's still going to be able to toss it to Garcia, who picks up a couple yards. Redmond dropped the initial snap, but able to pick it up. Took a favorable bounce off the ground as it almost bounced right back into his hands.
Just seems that there are some issues between the quarterback-center exchange right now. Cougars call a timeout. Try to figure that out, because you can't afford to have too many of those at this point in the game or at any point.
And I mentioned the center conundrum for the Cougars again. The rock at center from the last couple seasons, Amir Kovic, has since graduated, and Tanner Mosley was listed as the starter for the game. We've also seen Jacob Garrison there. So the Cougars are really trying to figure out who's going to take up after Kovic is gone, because I mean, center is such a pivotal position. I know I don't have to tell you, Parker, but you, especially when you have a bedrock leave like Kovic, you got to find that next guy to come up and take that spot, especially when you have two young guys in Tanner Mosley, a freshman, and Jacob Garrison, a sophomore. So it's not like you have another junior, another senior who's ready to step right in and continue producing.
And when the backup center is Jalen Franklin, who we saw go out with a little bit of a calf injury earlier in the game, and now you're forced to turn to Jacob Garrison, who's primarily a tackle guard type of player, now forcing him to play center. He doesn't have as much work with Prattley, with Redmond. Kind of seeing some of those issues kind of unfold a little bit here in the fourth quarter.
Redmond now, and he aims at the end zone. Dace, and it's broken up. No flag on the play, as there was some physicality between Dace and his secondary opponents. And that'll bring up 3rd and 8 now on Greenville's 19.
And Redmond's just got to get that pass up just a little higher. Give Dace a chance to make a play. It was almost able to come down with the catch, but if that ball is just a tad higher, it allows Dace to potentially score.
Yeah, Gabe Dace listed at 6'1", so he is a tall target. If Redmond could lift that a little bit more. Now he goes to the far side of the field, finds a receiver who isn't able to pick up the first down. That was Scarnato on the reception. And now it'll be 4th down and 5.
Now we see left tackle C.J. Morris coming back out onto the field. What this says is the Cougars want a little bit more protection on Redmond's blind side, having that experienced tackle to protect Redmond, especially his blind side.
So Cougars will like to go for it on 4th down again. Redmond, he's just going to take it himself, try to make something happen. Redmond is able to get the first down. Jacob Redmond didn't see anything passing-wise. He said, don't worry, guys, I got this. Takes it in for the first down, and he keeps his team alive.
And we saw the receiver at the top of your screen calling for the ball. Redmond deciding not to throw it as the defender was draped all over him. Nice job by Redmond picking up the first down with his legs, and that's something that really sticks out to offensive coordinator Chase Hankins and Coach Lambert.
So fresh set of downs as the Cougars are starting the drive on the 10-yard line. First and goal as Garcia hops around, picks up a few yards. Garcia, an elusive player listed at just 5 feet tall, but even though that might seem short to some, it means that it's just harder to bring him down, less player to target. And even at 5 feet, Garcia weighs in at 130, so he's a compact player.
Don't let his size fool you. He's a strong player with lots of speed.
Best now, he's going to take the ball. He gets brought down. Coming in on the tackle for Greenville was Lawrence Harris, senior defensive back, and now it'll bring up third and goal. Cougars less than 5 yards away from potting their second touchdown of the quarter and of the day. As we are under the 5:30 mark in regulation. The offense looking to the sideline. They got 10 seconds to go on the play clock, so they got to get things in gear here as players are still taking position. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and that's going to force a timeout by CUC. That's their third and final timeout of the half. Coach Lambert having to take it to avoid the delay of game. So we'll take a quick break up here while the Cougars sort things out. They're on the doorstep of another touchdown. Find out if they can get it right here on the Cougar Sports Network.
Hey Cougar fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information on the football program, visit CUCougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game. Go Cougars!
Third and goal for the Cougars, knocking on the doorstep. They have just about 4 yards to go from the end zone. Of 2 shots to get it as they walk back out after the timeout. Redmond looks for it in the passing game. He sends one to the corner, and it's not in the vicinity of Gabe Dace. A little too short and out of range. So that'll bring up another fourth down. The Cougars, they've already converted on a couple here on this drive. They're going to have to do it again if they want to score a touchdown.
Definitely keeping the offense on the field right here, but it seems that Dace has been the favorite target of Redmond here late in the game. It might be an interesting duo to look out for in future games.
Dace a freshman, Redmond a sophomore, so both underclassmen. Maybe trying to grow that chemistry for later down the line as Redmond now has to roll out. He's got a man right on his back. Redmond is going to take it in himself for the touchdown. Jacob Redmond making magic happen, and the Cougars get their second score of the quarter.
And that's just the aspect that Redmond brings to the game. He gets it done with his legs. And really nice job just driving himself into the end zone for his first collegiate touchdown.
As we see the replay here, you can tell Redmond was looking for that receiver for a while. Notice he had a man breathing down his neck, so he just took the ball, took it through a couple tacklers too, and he might have paid the price, but he got the touchdown out of it, and he scores his team's second touchdown of this quarter. Kick is up and good from Ryan Auer, so the score now 34-14, still in favor of Greenville. As we've got 4:55 left to go here in regulation. And Parker, we said that at the start of the quarter, this is what you want to see out of Concordia. They've now outscored Greenville 14-0 in this fourth quarter. A few touchdowns, a fumble and fumble return. I mean, everything's looking good here in the fourth quarter, and they're trying again to show that those first 3 quarters, that's not indicative of what this team is.
Yeah, and scoring 2 touchdowns here in the quarter, something that they haven't been able to do the previous 3 quarters. I mean, this is how you want to end the game if you are CUC, something to build off of going into next week's non-conference matchup at Oberlin College.
So Cougars come out for the kickoff while the Panthers are looking to put together something in this quarter. Rushing touchdown scored by Jacob Redmond. Cougars 13 plays, 50 yards, ate up 5:21 of clock, and that's a very typical Andy Lambert drive for this Concordia offense. It takes a while, a lot of rushing. You get some help from penalties, some 4th down conversions, and it ends with your QB getting it done in the end zone. As a shorter punt from Auer is gathered by Matt Tiger as he gets mobbed by some Cougars at the 40-yard line on Greenville's half.
A little extracurricular going on after the play. Coach Lambert, you want to pull those guys to the sideline. Don't make matters worse. Don't want to get a penalty just for trash talk.
Yeah, and that's one of the important things to really establish in your first few years as head coach is the culture of the team. And that's stopping stuff like that. You don't want to be that team where, guys are trash talking for no reason after a play. Obviously, you got to stand up for your guys. There is a place for it, but you also got to know when to reel it in, when to reel your guys in and say, hey, let's just focus on the field right now, guys. So Greenville sends out most of their starters still in the game. Peyton Bates, Garrett, and TJ Brown in the backfield as Brown takes it, and he's going to find himself some room as he's going to get 7-8 yards out of it. A flag is thrown, however, as it was after the play. Maybe some unnecessary roughness involved on the hit. You can hear some shouting over on the Greenville sideline. I believe that was Robbie Shoemaker, the head coach. So unnecessary roughness on Cougars defender number 39. That's Jaden Taylor, a freshman defensive back. And this is going to move the Panthers well onto the Cougars' half of the field as the line of scrimmage now at the 35-yard line.
Yeah, and just a typical freshman mistake right there from number 39, and something that you got to learn sometimes in your first few games as a collegiate football player, but Lambert is not happy about that one.
I should correct ourselves. It's actually on number 49 where Sean Walden is given the foul, as it is moving the Panthers. You can hear the Cougars cheer team keeping the crowd alive here as we enter the late stages of this game. 4:41 left to go here in the regulation. The cheer and stunt teams always doing a great job keeping energy levels high. No matter what's going on the field, you can always rely on them. It's been an exciting first week of school here at CUC. We just wrapped it up as athletics all happy to be back in action. We'll have some updates for you on what's going on around the school as this one is handed off to running back Kobe Bradley. Gets a couple yards. New man under center for the Panthers. It is number 14. That's Caden Broadway. But really quickly in terms of what else is going on. Women's soccer kicked off their season yesterday, a 3-0 loss. Women's tennis, 9-0 loss in their opening game. Men's soccer fell 2-1 at Earlham. Cross country began their season. Women's volleyball split their first 2 games of the year yesterday. They also picked up a win today. So women's volleyball off to a good start as there's another short rush from Greenville. Women's volleyball back in action again late this afternoon. We're still waiting on a final score from that matchup. Women's tennis is at it again. Men's soccer is also playing again today. They're at Anderson, while women's tennis has a doubleheader against Carroll and North Central. So plenty of these fall teams getting back into the swing of things as everyone gets back into the swing of school. And CUC football, obviously, the team before you trailing Greenville 34-14 as it's now 3rd down. Broadway gets the signs from his head coach. 5 seconds on the play clock as they have to get the snap off. They do just in time. They hand it off. It's a fake, though, as Broadway carries it. Stands up a couple defenders. He's off and running now. Breaks another tackle. Broadway making his name known, the sophomore, breaking tackle after tackle, and he brings his team within the 5-yard line.
And that's something that he has over the starting quarterback, Peyton Bates, is Broadway has a little bit of extra size on him, 6'3", 200 as listed on the roster. And really, we see just right there, it's not typical for quarterbacks to truck players like that, but he was doing his thing and just shaking and baking.
He didn't even truck them. He just stood them up as the line of scrimmage is at the 7. I should correct myself as he's going to take it himself, stands up another defender and falls into the end zone. Caden Broadway, he saw Jacob Redmond score one himself, said I can do that and better, stands up a few defenders and scores another Greenville touchdown. It is now 40-14 here in River Forest.
I know Greenville head coach is excited about what he's seen from Broadway, and just this possession alone, you see what you have in the rushing game with him. You know, not afraid to lower the shoulder, a very aggressive type player, sophomore out of Auburn, Washington. Nice drive for him.
As there's a miscue special teams-wise, the Cougars able to get behind the line. Flags do fly, so maybe some early starts here. The kick didn't even get off. Offsides on the defense, so we'll get set to do it again. So Hermo trying to make this a 41-14 game, assuming the extra point is good. And the Cougars will have about 2 minutes and 26 seconds to put one more score in this game. As Hermo, it got tipped, it looked like. It still went through the uprights. He kind of hesitated before he started running and then stopped before he actually kicked it. And I think some Cougars got some hands on it, but it still made it through.
He saw that pressure coming off the left side. They were coming, but kick barely made it over the crossbar.
2:26 left here in regulation as teams go over one final game plan. Most likely the Cougars, the way they like to take long drives, this could be the last one of the game, while Greenville is looking to keep them off the board, keep them under 20 points on the day. Last season, this defense for Greenville let up 24.9 points a game. That was second best mark in the conference. The Cougars, they scored just under 19 points a game. They're looking to get to that total here with at least another touchdown. Is what will need to happen.
Now we'll see what this Cougars team can do. The final 2.5 minutes of regulation, just trying to end the game on a high note for An offense that really struggled in those first 3 quarters, started to find the groove a little bit here in the last remaining quarter, but just you want to end the game on a high note if you're CUC.
Kick is up, and it is grabbed by the Cougars kick returner, Grant, who spins around a few tackles, finally brought down right after the 30-yard line. Again, the Cougars back in action next weekend, Saturday the 9th at Oberlin College. As they'll be traveling to Oberlin, Ohio for that game. The Austin E. Knowlton Athletics Complex and Dick Bailey Field. Bit of a long one where Oberlin plays their home games. As the Cougars now get set for one final offensive drive, possibly, as we're running short on time here in regulation, as there's some confusion over the play calling. They need another man out there. That's number 78 for the Cougars, rushing out there to get there in time. As now they snap it. Redmond finds a receiver, and number 82, who just keeps on going, almost picks up the first down. That was freshman wide receiver Derek Porter. Meanwhile, that was David Ruiz, who was struggling to get out onto the field in time.
Nice job by Redmond, really putting the ball out in front of Porter on a bubble. That's especially important. Really leading this man where he can catch it and go in stride and pick up the first, or almost pick up the first.
Redmond fires one downfield, and it's going to be picked off and dropped. Almost picked off by Jalen Betts. And you can see him doing push-ups right afterwards. He knew he had that one, and it just slipped through his hands.
Dangerous pass right there from Redmond. Throwing the ball into triple coverage, something you don't want to make a practice of if you're a quarterback. Got to be just a tad bit smarter, especially when you're rolling out to your right and don't have a plethora of options.
So 3rd and short for the Cougars. Need about 2 yards here for the first down. As Redmond sends his man in motion, grabbing it is Derek Porter, as he's going to get first down out of it. Just barely. We have a second here. Talk about what's happening after that Oberlin game. The Cougars will then travel to Benedictine. They'll have an off week the following weekend after Oberlin. Travel to Benedictine on the 23rd to start NAC play, and then return here to CUC on the 30th for Concordia University, Wisconsin. That'll be the homecoming game. As here's a good rush now for the Cougars from Jaden Taylor. Listed as a defensive back. He's getting some turns on the offense.
Really, they're just trying to utilize his speed, as we mentioned. Listed as a DB on the roster, but he's a fast player, getting him on the outside perimeter on a jet sweep. Just really wanted to take advantage of that speed that he brings to the table.
Redmond now, a quick pass out to Taylor again, who is brought down for the first down. 2nd and short, turns into a first. Cougars moving the ball well as we approach the 1-minute mark. As there it officially is, less than 60 seconds to go here in River Forest. Cougars looking to make something happen here at the last second, maybe get another score. They're going to have to start looking downfield, though, as they have over 40 yards to go, 45 to be exact. Redmond, he's going to keep this one himself. He's rushing. He's got some room. Redmond, a first down. Brings the Cougars to the 32-yard line. Clock stopped while they moved the yard markers. Again, Andy Lambert out of timeouts now as the clock picks back up. 30 seconds to go in regulation.
Really, that's just what Redmond brings to the table. Picking up the first down with his legs, made a nice read on the power read, reading that outside end. He went with the jet sweep. He decides to pull it and tuck it and get 10 yards.
Redmond, that pass a little low to the intended receiver, Porter. So that'll stop the clock. 13 seconds to go. Cougars 1 or 2 plays left before regulation runs out here in River Forest. So the Panthers, again, projected to win the UMAC this season, and they're starting off on the right note, picking up a win here in River Forest, while the Cougars look like they're going to start their season with a loss. As Redmond is going to keep it himself, and he's going to get brought down here. Whistles blow. The clock just going to keep on running until it hits 0. The buzzer sounds, and that'll do it. So the 2023 season opener ends here in River Forest. A final score of 41-14. The Greenville Panthers taking down the Cougars. Let's look at some of the final stat lines for you. In terms of the passing game, Troy Prattley, 9 for 16 with 160 yards. Jacob Redmond, though, not looking too terrible. 3 at 9 for 15 yards. He had some good plays with his legs, though. Troy Prattley also picked up a touchdown and an interception. Rushing-wise, the leader was Jacob Redmond, 5 rushes for 34 yards and a TD. And then receiving-wise, it was Jace Levi, 2 receptions for 96 yards. While the receiving touchdown came from Henry Jones. Greenville-wise, Peyton Bates, 7 for 20, passing for 64 yards. Did throw a pair of interceptions, however. Rushing-wise, Paul Garrett, 11 attempts for 68 yards and a touchdown. Boardway and Tiger also scoring rushing touchdowns. And then receiving-wise, not a lot to pick from, but Delray Crowder led the receiving squad. 1 reception for 19 total yards. Reception-wise, it was Jabri Berry who had 2 receptions. Defensively, Cougars having some nice performances. Damari Grant with an interception and a forced fumble. The fumble recovery by Dace, and then tackles for loss, 2 from Justin Pierce. Williams had a half. Boykin had a half. No sacks on the day for the Cougars. Meanwhile, defensively for Greenville, 2.5 tackles for loss from Braden Wells. Harris a half tackle for a loss, and Dow also had 2. Interception from Dwayne Garrett. He returned that one for a touchdown. That was the notable players defensively for Greenville. But, Parker, we wrap up here. Kind of give us your final thoughts. Greenville taking this opening game 41-14 over CUC.
Well, really, it was a pretty solid outing for the defense, even though the score may have indicated otherwise. There's a common saying that the score doesn't lie, but it doesn't always tell the truth either. And if you were just looking at the score, you would think, defense didn't play as well as expected, but it did. And a lot of those touchdowns, came off of special teams or just miscues on the offensive end. However, the offense, on the other hand, did find their groove late, so that is something for them to build off of heading into Oberlin next week. I know they liked what they saw out of Prattley as far as the passing game was concerned. And then Redmond, offers that other dimension of being able to run the football, come in the fourth quarter and lead the team in rushing in only a quarter of work. So definitely something to build off of for this Cougar team.
Well, before we close out this broadcast and the 2023 season opener, I want to say thanks to everyone making this Cougar Sports Network production possible. Spotting-wise, Chandler Kerr and Wyatt McLaughlin. On the call participation was Kate Johnson. Camera handled by William Bishop Green, Janie Turnez, and Rafael Gonzalez. Our producers for the day were Emily Balaban and Sydney Lloyd. Saba Miller down at field level capturing the game on photo, and working the video board was Ashley Schroll. In terms of our leaders, we are led by our assistant sports information director, Sydney Ploskis-Laher, and our sports information director, Kayla McLeod. I was Peter Borkowski, joined by Parker Kelly. But one more time, that'll do it from River Forest. The 2023 season opener has concluded. Cougars drop it to the Greenville Panthers 41-14. We'll be back here in about a month's worth of time for some CUC football. They're back at River Forest September 30th when they host the Concordia University Wisconsin Falcons. More CUC athletics in between that time. So until then, this is Peter Borkowski signing off of the Cougar Sports Network and wanting to say, as always, go Cougars.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.